Chapter 1176. Fu Hui was good at making friends and had a good reputation in the inner sect. Naturally, he had a few friends around him, all of whom were elites in the inner sect. If it was before, they wouldn't have come to make friends with a half-step heaven immortal outer sect disciple. But it was different now. After witnessing Jiang Chen's abilities, no one dared to look down on him anymore. Plus, Jiang Chen had become Tianji Zi's true disciple, which meant that his future was destined to be limitless. Whether it was status or identity, Jiang Chen had far surpassed them. Befriending Jiang Chen would only bring them benefits. It could also be considered as having an indirect backing. Brother Jiang's talent is extraordinary. It's amazing. I really admire you. Meng Jie cupped his fists towards Jiang Chen. Even a late heaven immortal expert wouldn't dare to put on any airs in front of Jiang Chen. That's right. Brother Jiang is a peerless monstrous genius. Your future is destined to be limitless. Now that Brother Jiang has become Elder Tianji's true disciple, your status in Tianyun Pavilion has skyrocketed. In the future, we will have to rely on Brother Jiang's guidance. That's right. Although Brother Jiang has only come to Tianyun Pavilion for a few days, we have all heard about your heroic deeds. Plus, Brother Jiang is Brother Fu's friend, which makes him our friend. In the future, we will follow Brother Jiang and have a place in the inner sect. That's right. Although Brother Jiang is also an inner sect disciple like us, he has the identity of a true disciple. That is truly noble. The few of them began to flatter Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen could only chuckle in response to their flattery. He knew very well what they were thinking. Now that his status was different, it was perfectly normal for them to come and fawn on him. Brother Fu's friends are naturally my friends as well. In the future, we will have to take care of each other, said Jiang Chen with a smile. Of course, Jiang Chen wouldn't refuse their goodwill. In order to make Tianyun Pavilion flourish in the future, it was necessary for him to build up his own network. Brother Jiang, you can say that you are riding on the crest of success right now, but don't be too careless. You are a true disciple, but at the same time, you are also an inner court disciple. There are many true disciples in the inner court. Ordinary inner court disciples wouldn't dare to offend you, but those true disciples are different. Plus, Elder Tianji is a bit unreasonable, and he has enmity with many elders. I think those true disciples won't let you have it easy. Fu Hui reminded. The others nodded. The few of them also nodded. As inner sect disciples of Tianyun Pavilion, they were far more than Jiang Chen. They'd better not provoke me. A trace of cold light flashed across Jiang Chen's eyes. Although it was only for a moment, it made them shiver. Although this was the first time they met Jiang Chen, they were very clear about Jiang Chen's past deeds and the things he did in the outer sect. They deeply understood that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Now that he had Tianji Zi as his backer, he became even more insufferably arrogant. It seemed like Tianyun Pavilion would become even more lively in the future. In the future, if Brother Jiang has any errands for us in the inner sect, we will do our best. Meng Jie patted his chest and expressed his sincerity to Jiang Chen. It was a funny thing for a late heaven immortal genius to express his sincerity to a half-step heaven immortal disciple, but no one on the scene felt anything wrong, because this was the reality. Because the current Jiang Chen was no longer the same Jiang Chen as before. He had potential and a backer. Everyone could see this with their own eyes. Following me will bring you endless benefits in the future. I'm going to repair the iron dummy array now. You all can go back first, Jiang Chen said. Although his cultivation base wasn't high, he was born with the qi of a king, which ordinary people couldn't compare with. Those who were with him would be easily influenced by his qi and be subdued by it. Fu Hui, Meng Jie and the others left. Only Jiang Chen was left in front of the palace. Not long after they left, a golden light flashed and appeared next to Jiang Chen. It was Da Huang Dog. For God's sake. You are truly a ferocious brat. You have even destroyed the iron dummy array. Well done. Big Yellow seemed to be very excited. Obviously, he had been watching everything that had happened in the dark, and when he saw that everyone had left, he jumped out from his hiding spot. Da Huang, you have come at the right time. I'm going to repair this iron dummy array and I need your help. Jiang Chen said. Give me some benefits, or I won't do it. Da Huang Dog had a sinister smile on his face. This guy was an expert in bargaining. You can have as many immortal meta stones as you want in the future. Jiang Chen chuckled, not stingy at all. That's more like it. De Huang Dog wagged his tail in satisfaction and walked towards the interior of the palace. You are proficient in the heavenly book of source formations. What is the essence of this iron dummy array? Jiang Chen asked. There is a kind of array in the heavenly book of source formations called the 7 stars alignment. This array isn't very profound, but it was built with great precision. This iron dummy array is obviously evolved from the 7 stars alignment array. It can be seen that the owner of this array is also a master of array. De Huang Dog only took a casual glance at it and was able to see the essence of the iron dummy array. Perhaps only De Huang Dog could have such a terrifying ability. Jiang Chen gave De Huang Dog a thumbs up. What De Huang Dog said was exactly the same as what he had explored before. It could be seen that if he had brought De Huang Dog here to break the array, this iron dummy array would have been nothing to him. The essence of the iron dummy array is that the core is not in the array, but on the puppets. The process of combining the array and the puppets is rather complicated. If I do it alone, it will take too long. Since you are proficient in the heavenly book of source formations, can you see if there is any fast way to restore the iron dummy array? Said Jiang Chen. The core has been destroyed by you. Master Dog has taken a look at it. The materials used to refine these puppets are very rare. The puppets you destroyed can no longer be restored. These puppets could have been restored with the operation of the array, but the array has been destroyed by you. Therefore, the destroyed puppets are destined to be unable to be restored. Even if the array is operated again, it will be useless because the complete puppets must be used in the array in advance. De Huang Dog said, but these 28 puppets occupy the 7 positions of the 7 stars alignment. Once one of them is missing, the balance will be broken and the array will be incomplete. Therefore, I suggest you destroy 6 more puppets and leave 3 in each position. In this case, the power of the array itself will be affected, right? Chapter 1177. In order to maintain the basic balance of the formation, it was necessary to destroy some puppets again because it was impossible for them to find the same materials and create new puppets in a short period of time. This was the most difficult part. However, if the puppets were destroyed, the original 28 puppets would be reduced to 21, which was equivalent to weakening the strength of the formation. This was also not what Jiang Chen wanted to see. This formation was personally created by Ouyang He. It could be said that it was Ouyang He's painstaking effort. If Ouyang He's painstaking effort was destroyed in his own hands, he would feel very guilty. Don't worry. Don't worry, if it's an ordinary person, they won't be able to restore it to its original power after reducing the number of puppets. But it won't be a problem for me, Big Yellow. I'll add a new formation to the 7 stars alignment formation, which will be called the Horns formation. Every 3 puppets will form a new formation, and the Horns formation will be triangular, which is the most stable state when they work together. It can double the combat power of the 3 puppets, which is equivalent to the power of the original 6 puppets. Besides, I can merge the 7 stars alignment formation and the Horns formation with each other, so not only will the iron dummy formation's power not be weakened at all, but it will also be stronger than before. De Huang Dog said proudly. This dog had 2 great advantages. One was to find treasures, and the other was to set up formations. Amazing. Hearing this, Jiang Chen's eyes suddenly lit up. He secretly thought that the heavenly book of source formations was indeed worthy of its reputation. De Huang Dog's attainments in this aspect were really not just for show. However, in this way, it will be more difficult for the geniuses who want to challenge the iron dummy formation in the future. But this is also good. Once they succeed, they will definitely be molded. Jiang Chen nodded his head and praised. The iron dummy formation was more perfect than before, which made him feel less guilty. That's nothing. Master Dog can make this formation more perfect. De Huang Dog said arrogantly. Forget it. It will be meaningless if you do that. Jiang Chen curled his lips. If he made the iron dummy formation too perfect, it would be meaningless. No geniuses who entered it would be able to come out alive. If so, what was the point of the iron dummy formation? It would not be able to motivate the geniuses of the outer sect to improve. Subsequently, Jiang Chen walked to the puppets and punched, smashing 6 puppets in succession. Out of the original 28 puppets, only 21 were left. Next, it was up to Big Yellow. Big Yellow kept spitting out complicated patterns and drawing in the air with his hooves, revealing the profound meaning of the formation. Seeing that De Huang Dog was so proficient, Jiang Chen felt that there was no need for him to make a move. De Huang Dog alone was enough to deal with this formation. Plus, Jiang Chen did not know the essence of the horn formation. So, he simply flashed to the side and acted as a guard for De Huang Dog. Although Jiang Chen did not make a move, he also knew that the 7-star alignment formation and the horn formation were bound to be a slow process. Even with De Huang Dog's ability, he was afraid that it would take him a day to complete it. During this day, the only thing Jiang Chen needed to do was to prevent others from disturbing De Huang Dog. Setting up a formation was a complicated and precise process. It needed to be done in one go. Once it was disturbed, all the previous efforts would be wasted and the person who set up the formation would suffer a certain amount of damage. De Huang Dog's technique was skillful. He constantly made various kinds of marks. For a time, the entire palace was filled with the aura of the formation. Bright lights constantly appeared in different corners of the palace. De Huang Dog's face was solemn as he appeared in different positions from time to time. Perhaps in De Huang Dog's heart, setting up a formation was a very solemn thing in itself. The entire mountain was quiet. As usual, no one would appear here. The only reason for the existence of this mountain was the iron dummy array. In the absence of geniuses challenging the iron dummy array, it had always been quiet. Late at night, De Huang Dog had finally repaired the entire iron dummy array after half a day's work. However, he had only set up the 7-star alignment formation. He had yet to start setting up the horn formation. Even if he could completely set up the horn formation, he still needed to fuse the two formations and place the core of the formation on the puppets. The process was even more tedious. According to Jiang Chen's estimation, the entire formation should be completely set up by dawn. Seeing De Huang Dog working so hard, Jiang Chen's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. This dog was very mischievous and always made people worry about him. However, when it came to a critical moment, he would still be very useful. In Jiang Chen's heart, De Huang was neither a dog nor a noble divine beast dragon horse, but his own brother, a brother of life and death. At dawn, De Huang Dog had finished setting up the horn formation. He was now going through the most critical step of fusion. Once the fusion was successful, the formation would be completed. However, this step of fusion was also the most difficult one. Perhaps only a freak like De Huang Dog could withstand such a high-intensity and high-energy load. If it was an ordinary person, he would have long been paralyzed on the ground. Rustle! 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 Suddenly, the sound of footsteps was heard outside the palace. It wasn't loud, but it couldn't be hidden from Jiang Chen's ears. Bang! Before Jiang Chen could do anything, the door of the palace was kicked open by a barbaric force. This situation made Jiang Chen frown. No matter who the person was, such an impolite way of doing things was extremely disgusting. Big Yellow had reached the most critical moment of his cultivation, and he couldn't be disturbed at any cost. You're right. Jiang Chen turned around and saw 3 young men in the uniform of Tianyun Pavilion barging in. All 3 of them were Heaven Immortal experts. Needless to say, they were inner sect disciples. The leader was a tall and burly man with a full beard, giving people a fierce feeling. One look and anyone could tell that he wasn't a kind person. His cultivation base was also very terrifying, having reached the late Heaven Immortal realm. The other 2 were intermediate Heaven Immortal experts. The 3 of them had arrogant looks on their faces, as if someone owed them money. I don't care who you are. You'd better get lost immediately and quietly. Jiang Chen gave them a casual glance and said impatiently, What a good Jiang Chen. Sure enough, you're as arrogant as the rumor says. Chapter 1178. Get out of here now. Jiang Chen's voice was incomparably cold. He didn't know who these 3 guys were, but he could tell that they were up to no good. Knowing that he was a true disciple of Tianji Zi, they must have some kind of background to cause trouble for him. However, Jiang Chen didn't care about this. All along, those who dared to offend Jiang Chen had always ended up in a miserable state. The stronger one's background was, the more miserable their ending would be. Humph! Jiang Chen, don't be so arrogant. We are here to check the condition of the iron dummy array under senior brother Chu Yuan's order. You have destroyed the iron dummy array. If you can't restore it in good condition, it will be a great crime. It will be a great disrespect to the previous sect master. You can't afford this crime. An intermediate Heaven Immortal disciple harumphed coldly, showing no fear towards Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen, how dare you let a dog come here? The Iron Dummy Array is the sacred place of Tianyun Pavilion. How dare you let a dog in and pretend to restore the array? Preposterous! Do you really think that you can do whatever you want after acknowledging Elder Tianji as your master? Another disciple spoke Lung Lung. It seemed like he was here to condemn Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen's frown deepened. Obviously, these three guys were here to cause trouble for him. It seemed like the senior brother Chu Yuan behind them wasn't a simple person. What puzzled Jiang Chen was why Chu Yuan would come to find trouble for him. However, Jiang Chen had heard from Fu Hui and Meng Jie about the internal situation of Tianyun Pavilion. He guessed that Chu Yuan was also a true disciple of an elder. Currently, in the inner sect, except for those geniuses who had a true disciple, ordinary inner sect disciples wouldn't dare to cause trouble for him, because that would only cause trouble for him. Senior brother Gao Yang, I think we should throw this dog out. Then asked Jiang Chen about the crime of blasphemy. The intermediate heaven immortal disciple said to the bearded youth. The bearded youth was called Gao Yang, an inner sect disciple. There weren't many late heaven immortal experts in the inner sect. One could imagine that Gao Yang's status in the inner sect was pretty good. You, go and capture this dog for me, Gao Yang said with a cold expression. Yes, senior brother Gao. That man sneered and strode towards De Huang Dog. He did not put Jiang Chen in his eyes at all. In their eyes, Jiang Chen was merely an outstanding talent. After all, he was just a small character who was not even a heaven immortal. The gap between their cultivation bases made them very confident. Pa! However, just as the disciple took a step forward, he could no longer move his body. This was because a large hand had landed on his shoulder from behind. The hand was like a mountain, pressing down on him, making it difficult for him to breathe. Jiang Chen, what are you doing? The disciple turned his head and said fiercely to Jiang Chen. You're tired of living. Jiang Chen's face was emotionless. He exerted strength in his palm. With a cracking sound, the disciple's shoulder was crushed. Then, Jiang Chen casually flung the disciple out of the palace like a sandbag. I know that I'm your target. Let's settle this. Jiang Chen looked at Gao Yang and the others and said plainly. After witnessing Jiang Chen's strength with their own eyes, the two of them were incomparably shocked. It seemed like Jiang Chen was much harder to deal with than they had imagined. The one who attacked them just now was an intermediate heaven immortal expert and a genius of the inner sect, but in Jiang Chen's hand, he was thrown out like a doll. Fine. Gao Yang glared at Jiang Chen, then turned and walked out of the palace. After all, this wasn't the place to fight. Although Gao Yang was shocked, he wasn't afraid, because even if Jiang Chen had the strength to defeat an intermediate heaven immortal expert, Jiang Chen was absolutely no match for him. Gao Yang was very confident in his own ability. After the two of them walked out of the palace, Jiang Chen followed them out. He then turned and shut the door of the palace. De Huang Dog was now in the most crucial stage of his cultivation. He must not be affected in the slightest. If all his previous efforts were in vain, it wouldn't be worth it. Outside of the palace, the disciple who was thrown out by Jiang Chen had stood up from the ground. However, he couldn't lift his crushed shoulder anymore. The intense pain had twisted his face, but he was trying his best not to scream out loud. That's right. How are you? Are you all right? Gao Yang asked. Senior brother Gao, this man is much scarier than we imagined. Even though he has advanced to the half-step heaven immortal realm, he is still a little too scary. I didn't even have the chance to resist when he attacked me just now. The disciple said in a low voice, looking at Jiang Chen with fear in his eyes. Jiang Chen's power was beyond his expectation. I will give you one last chance. Scram immediately. I don't care who that dog fart Chu Yuan is, but you'd better not offend me, because you can't afford to offend him. Jiang Chen's tone was icy cold. Jiang Chen, you are too arrogant. You have just arrived at Tianyun Pavilion and you are already so arrogant and despotic. This isn't a good thing for you. Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of senior brother Chu Yuan. I will teach you how to behave. Gao Yang said arrogantly. Is that so? Then I will not let you be a man. Jiang Chen was infuriated. He never liked to give people too many chances. He only had one way to deal with those who didn't know what was good for them, and that was to make them regret ever offending him. I would like to see what's so special about a man chosen by Tianji. Gao Yang's qi fluctuated. Waves of qi surged out like tidal waves. The qi of a late heaven immortal expert was completely unleashed. Bang! Gao Yang bellowed and charged at Jiang Chen like a raging bull. His terrifying fist was glowing like a divine weapon, appearing in front of Jiang Chen in the blink of an eye. Gao Yang cultivated a rather overbearing cultivation method, which made his physique the strongest. His physique had always been his proudest feature. Ordinary opponents would tremble in fear under his overbearing chi. Naturally, Gao Yang was brimming with confidence in dealing with a half-step heaven immortal expert. He didn't put Jiang Chen in his eyes at all. In his point of view, a single punch was enough to cripple Jiang Chen. He even had to preserve some of his strength, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to bear the wrath of Tianji if he killed Jiang Chen with a single punch. His purpose of coming here was to teach Jiang Chen a lesson. However, it was a grave mistake to show off his strength in front of Jiang Chen. Humph. Chapter 1179. Pa! Sparks burst out from the collision of their energies. Gao Yang's facial expression changed drastically the moment his fist collided with Jiang Chen's. Things were far different from what he had imagined. This half-step heaven immortal in front of him was ridiculously strong. Gao Yang felt a lightning-like power pressing down on him. It was vast and sharp, making it impossible for him to resist at all. He was already powerful enough, but compared to the other party's strength, the difference between them was very obvious. Ka-cha! Along with the sound of bones breaking, Gao Yang was pushed back by Jiang Chen's punch. The two disciples behind him quickly helped him to stabilize his body. One of his arms was dangling down. Gao Yang's forehead was covered with sweat. He could clearly feel the dislocation of the bones in his arm. That was a serious injury. An intense pain came from his palm, making him feel numb. How is this possible? Gao Yang couldn't believe this result. He couldn't accept that the strength he was so proud of was so vulnerable in front of his opponent. Senior brother Gao, this bastard is too abnormal. We are no match for him. The disciple who hadn't attacked yet had his facial expression changed dramatically. He no longer had the arrogance he had when he first arrived. Chu Yuan had asked them to teach Jiang Chen a lesson, but Jiang Chen's scariness had far exceeded their expectation. The shock that a half-step heaven immortal could possess such terrifying strength was unimaginable to ordinary people. Only those who had experienced it themselves would know how scary Jiang Chen was. Jiang Chen, we will remember what happened today. Let's go. After knowing that he wasn't a match for Jiang Chen, Gao Yang left a harsh sentence and turned to leave. If they continued to stay here, they would be the ones to suffer. Although they failed to teach Jiang Chen a lesson and were injured, they were only superficial wounds. This trip wasn't in vain. At least they had figured out Jiang Chen's true strength. Swoosh. However, it was too late for them to leave now because Jiang Chen would never agree to it. Just as they turned around, Jiang Chen's silhouette appeared in front of them, blocking their way. You want to leave just like that? Jiang Chen crossed his arms in front of his chest and spoke plainly. These three bastards had come to find trouble with him. If he were to let them leave unscathed, where would he put his face? How was he going to establish a foothold in Skycloud Pavilion in the future? If this news reached Tianji's ears, he was afraid that Tianji would despise him for being a coward. Jiang Chen, what do you want? Don't go overboard. Gao Yang said with a frown. Haha, what a joke. You all came to find trouble with me before dawn, and now you say that I'm going overboard? Since that's the case, I'll show you how overboard I am. I've warned you all before not to provoke me, because you all are not qualified. Jiang Chen burst into laughter. After that, he flipped his palm and a long sword appeared in his hand. He threw the long sword onto the ground and said coldly, each of you will chop off one of your arms as punishment for provoking me. After that, I'll let you go. What? Hearing what Jiang Chen said, the three of them cried out in shock at the same time. Cutting off an arm? What kind of joke was this? It was normal for disciples to fight each other in the sect, but normally, there wouldn't be any serious injuries or deaths. At least, they wouldn't kill each other in the sect. But Jiang Chen had cut off one of their arms. This was too cruel. This is the last chance I'm giving you all. If you don't act now, I will personally cut off your arms, turning you all into real cripples. Jiang Chen's expression didn't change. His eyes were cold and emotionless. The three of them suddenly felt a deep fear. They felt that Jiang Chen wasn't joking with them. That wasn't a joking expression. That was the cold-blooded expression of someone who had experienced countless slaughters. In that gaze, all living beings were just floating clouds. Killing seemed incomparably normal in that gaze. At this moment, the three of them finally realized the other identity of Jiang Chen. He was the true disciple of Tianji Zi. Tianji Zi could guarantee Jiang Chen's safety even if their arms and legs were cut off. Even the law enforcement palace had to give Tianji Zi face. As for them, they didn't have a golden immortal elder to back them up. Although their senior brother Chu Yuan had a noble status, he couldn't help them regrow their arms. Jiang Chen, don't go too far. We are senior brother Chu Yuan's men. Senior brother Chu Yuan is a half-step divine immortal expert, a peerless genius and a core disciple of a golden immortal elder. If you touch us, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Gao Yang gritted his teeth and said. At this moment, there was nothing else he could do apart from putting Chu Yuan on the table. He was sure that he wasn't a match for Jiang Chen. He could only use Chu Yuan's identity to oppress Jiang Chen and force him to compromise. Only then could they leave unscathed. As for today's enmity, they would naturally have time to settle it in the future. It seems like you still can't see the situation clearly and don't know how to appreciate favor. A light flickered in Jiang Chen's hand. Another long sword emerged. The sharp heavenly saint sword slashed out like a blood dragon. At such a close distance, Gao Yang wouldn't be able to dodge such a fast slash from Jiang Chen. If it was before, Jiang Chen would have to transform into his dragon form to deal with a late heaven immortal expert like Gao Yang. But now that his cultivation base had advanced to the half-step heaven immortal realm and his potential had been stimulated, dealing with an ordinary late heaven immortal expert wouldn't be a problem at all. Poochie! Blood splashed all of a sudden. Gao Yang's arm was severed by Jiang Chen's sword. Blood gushed out like a fountain from the severed arm, looking very dazzling under the dawn light. Ah! Jiang Chen, how dare you! Gao Yang didn't expect that Jiang Chen would attack so quickly. He exclaimed, but before his words faded away, Jiang Chen had already made another slash. Poochie, his other arm was severed. Ah! My arm, my arm! Gao Yang finally let out a blood-curdling screech. Losing both of his arms was a huge blow to him. Whether it was a psychological blow or a physical blow, it was unbearable. Although Gao Yang was a late heaven immortal expert, he was basically a cripple after losing both of his arms. His future achievements would be completely limited, and it would be extremely difficult for him to advance further in his cultivation base. This situation simply made him despair. I've already given you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. This is just a small punishment. You should be glad that you're still alive and can still scream here. Chapter 1180. Gao Yang's scream was heart-wrenching. Both of his arms were chopped off at the same time. Blood gushed out unceasingly. Jiang Chen's face was cold and indifferent, like a bloodthirsty devil king. The other two intermediate heaven immortal disciples were completely scared silly. Their bodies were trembling, not daring to say a word. The pressure that Jiang Chen gave them was just too great. The two of you, are you going to do it yourselves or do I have to do it? Jiang Chen looked at the two, his face still expressionless. Jiang Chen, the sect forbids disciples from killing each other. The law enforcement hall will never let you off for treating us like this. A disciple said in a trembling voice, wanting to use the law enforcement hall to pressure Jiang Chen. Unfortunately, he didn't understand Jiang Chen's character at all. Jiang Chen, don't go overboard. We are indeed in the wrong today. We will apologize to you now and beg you to let us go. The other disciple was obviously more sensible. Not only could he see the current situation clearly, he could also tell that Jiang Chen was a cruel and ruthless man. Going against such a man wouldn't end well. The more threatening words Jiang Chen uttered, the more danger he would be in. Gao Yang was a living example of this. Don't talk nonsense with me. I will count to 3. If the two of you don't do it yourselves, I will do it for you. Jiang Chen glared at the two of them. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Jiang Chen, who had gone through countless slaughters, had long understood that kindness was a luxury in this cruel world. Only when one was strong enough would he have the chance to turn the situation around. If he wasn't strong enough and was bullied by the three of them, it would only be a humiliation. Therefore, Jiang Chen wouldn't be polite to them. Both of them looked at each other and saw the despair in each other's eyes. They could tell that Jiang Chen wasn't joking with them, and there was no way he would let them go so easily. At this moment, they began to regret coming here today. If they didn't provoke Jiang Chen, with their cultivation base, they would still be able to live a good life in the inner sect. But now everything was different. This was the so-called a single mistake may cause everlasting sorrow. At last, the two of them had no choice but to compromise, because they had no right to bargain with Jiang Chen, and they didn't have any bargaining chips to resist Jiang Chen. The two of them clenched their teeth. They didn't bend down to pick up the sword that Jiang Chen had dropped on the ground. Instead, they took out their combat weapons and chopped off one of their arms, causing blood to spurt out from their wounds. The scene was extremely miserable. This was an act of self-mutilation. How cruel must one's heart be to cut off one's arm with a sword? However, the two of them had no other choice. Losing one arm was much better than losing both arms. Gao Yang was a living example. There were many people in this world who only had one arm, but they could still cultivate and fight. But if they lost both arms, they would basically become a cripple. The rest of Gao Yang's life would be ruined. "Jiang Chen, can we leave now?" one of them said. The pain of losing an arm made his voice tremble. "Get lost." Jiang Chen glanced at the three of them and said indifferently. He would never show mercy to his enemies. "Jiang Chen, this isn't over yet. We must take revenge. You killed your fellow disciple. We'll report this to the law enforcement hall." "No, there's no need for the law enforcement hall. Senior brother Chu Yuan will teach you a lesson." Gao Yang, who had lost both his arms, said ruthlessly as he walked away. His action frightened the other two. They immediately pulled Gao Yang and disappeared. Gao Yang had lost his mind after losing both his arms. He had become an idiot. Obviously, they couldn't afford to offend Jiang Chen. Now that Jiang Chen told them to leave, they should leave immediately. Even if they wanted to take revenge, they shouldn't say it out loud. If they offended Jiang Chen, it wouldn't be as simple as losing his arms. After the three of them left, Jiang Chen's eyes turned extremely cold. "Chu Yuan, I don't care who you are. You'd better not provoke me. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences." To Jiang Chen, every stage of his growth was destined to be full of troubles. There were bound to be a lot of stepping stones in front of him. What he needed to do was to crush these stepping stones and move forward calmly. The same went for Tianyun Pavilion. Since Jiang Chen had decided to carry forward the Tianyun Pavilion in the future, it was necessary for the whole sect to undergo a major change. If he wanted to establish his position in the sect, he had to be ruthless and prove himself with practical actions. In the center of the inner sect, there was an incomparably tranquil courtyard. The immortal qi floating in the air was obviously denser than other places. It was imaginable that the people who lived here had a certain status in the inner sect. This was Chu Yuan's residence. As a half-step divine immortal expert, he was already one of the best in the inner sect, but it was impossible for him to have such a special cultivation place. Chu Yuan also had another identity, which was a true disciple. His master was Elder Yang Shu, a late perfected golden immortal expert of the sect. His master was Elder Yang Shu. The two people with the highest cultivation base in Tianyun Pavilion were Tian Muyun and Taoist Yu Feng. Both of them were half-step immortal king experts. The late golden immortal expert was second only to them. Yang Shu was one of the two elders sent by Tian Muyun to guard the regenerative lotus in the heavenly mountain. This showed how high Yang Shu's status in the sect was. Who would dare to provoke Yang Shu's disciple? Therefore, Chu Yuan was basically like a little emperor in the inner sect. No one dared to provoke him. If he was really provoked, he was afraid that Yang Shu wouldn't even need to deal with him personally. The core disciples of the immortal realm would be able to help him settle the matter. One should know that Chu Yuan wasn't the only true disciple that Yang Shu had accepted. There were also powerful divine immortal experts in the core sect, the true core disciples. Therefore, every respected elder in the sect had their own forces, or in other words, every elder was nurturing their own forces. Tianjizi was an exception. Given Chu Yuan's identity, if Jiang Chen had only passed the Iron Dummy Array and become an ordinary inner sect disciple, Chu Yuan was afraid that he wouldn't even spare a glance at Jiang Chen, let alone find trouble with Jiang Chen. But now, Jiang Chen had the same identity as him. The identity of a true disciple was the most sensitive. Plus, his master, Yang Shu, and Tianjizi didn't get along well. That was why Chu Yuan wanted to find trouble with Jiang Chen. He wanted to use Jiang Chen to humiliate Tianjizi. Chapter 1181. In the courtyard, Gao Yang and the other two were wailing loudly. They were like children who had been wronged endlessly and had suddenly seen their own mother, wanting to release all of their grievances in one go. In front of them was a handsome and elegant young man in white. He held a folding fan in his hand. He was very handsome, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. His figure was tall and straight, and he had an extraordinary bearing. However, at this moment, his expression was extremely ugly. The folding fan in his hand should have been swinging around, but now it was tightly shut. He was Xueqi, the true disciple of Elder Yang Shu. "Speak. What happened?" Xueqi bellowed angrily. The three of them had been following him for a long time. Not long ago, they were sent to cause trouble for Jiang Chen, but now they came back in such a sorry state. Each of them had an arm severed. Gao Yang, the strongest among them, had both of his arms chopped off. In the entire inner sect, cutting off their arms was no different than slapping his own face. Xueqi had already guessed that this matter must have something to do with Jiang Chen, but he couldn't believe that Jiang Chen was only a half-step heaven immortal expert. He didn't have the ability to do such a thing to Gao Yang and the others. "Senior brother Chu, you have to uphold justice for us. That Jiang Chen is just too arrogant. He didn't put you in his eyes at all. We went to see how the array was being repaired, but he sent a dog to repair the array. That was a humiliation to the iron dummy array. We went to stop him, but we didn't expect that this bastard's cultivation base was so strong. We were no match for him." "That's right, Senior brother Chu, that freak is really too powerful. Even senior brother Gao Yang couldn't withstand a single move from him. He said that since we provoked him, we must pay the price, so he chopped off one of our arms each." Senior brother Gao Yang resisted a few words, and both of his arms were chopped off. "Senior brother Chu, you have to uphold justice for us. That Jiang Chen thought that he could do whatever he wanted just because he was accepted as a true disciple of Tianji Zi. We even mentioned your name, but he didn't put you in his eyes at all. He said that if you dare to provoke him, you will end up like us." The three of them wept word by word and told Xueqi everything that had happened. They didn't exaggerate the process because Jiang Chen was, after all, arrogant as Jiang Chen was. Boom! After listening to the three of them, Xueqi's anger exploded. He had never been so angry ever since he became a true disciple. He had not tasted anger for a long time. "Good. Very good. Jiang Chen. In the entire inner sect, no one has ever dared to not give me, Xueqi, face. How can a guy who has just arrived in the sect be so arrogant? Does he really think that he can do whatever he wants after becoming a true disciple? There are many true disciples in Tianyun Pavilion, and many of them are arrogant. But I have never seen anyone so arrogant and unscrupulous." Xueqi was infuriated. Jiang Chen's behavior was simply a provocation and humiliation to him. If this matter was spread out, he would lose all his face. "Senior brother Chu, that bastard didn't care about the friendship between his fellow disciples. He killed his fellow disciples in the sect. He has completely disregarded the rules of the sect. Why don't we report him to the law enforcement hall and let them punish him severely?" One of them said. The law enforcement hall was the most important hall in the sect, but under normal circumstances, it wouldn't interfere with the matters of the outer sect and inner sect. This was because the outer sect and inner sect had an institute of elders. Ordinary matters would be handled by the institute of elders. The law enforcement hall mainly dealt with the core disciples and some higher-ups of the sect. But Gao Yang's situation was different. Jiang Chen was now a true disciple. The institute of elders didn't dare to interfere, because even the institute of elders of the inner sect wouldn't dare to offend a golden immortal elder for no reason. Therefore, if they wanted to seek justice, they had to report Jiang Chen to the law enforcement hall. As the most authoritative hall in the sect, they would certainly give them an explanation and punish Jiang Chen severely. Pah! But as soon as the disciple finished his words, Xueqi gave him a slap on the face. "Trash, if you bring this matter to the law enforcement hall because of a mere Jiang Chen, where would I put my face? My master's face would also be damaged. In the inner sect, there is nothing that I, Xueqi, can't handle." Xueqi Lang said. What a joke. He had to settle this matter himself to redeem his face and his status in the inner sect. If this matter was brought to the law enforcement hall, wouldn't it show that he was incompetent? At that time, he would become a laughingstock in the inner sect. His master, Yang Shu, would also punish him severely. Yes. Senior brother Xueqi has remarkable abilities and powerful means. That Jiang Chen is definitely not a match for you. Just now, I said to report the law enforcement hall out of desperation. I hope senior brother Chu Yuan won't take it to heart. That person was so scared that he became a yes man and hurriedly tried to explain himself. He knew that his words had made Chu Yuan unhappy. However, he had already begun to curse in his heart. What the hell is going on? I lost an arm while working for Chu Yuan. Not only did I not get any comfort or compensation when I came back, but I was also slapped in the face. How can I live like this? Humph. A puny Jiang Chen dares to make things difficult for me in public? If that's the case, I won't be polite anymore. I'll personally settle the debt between you two. Take these pills and heal your injuries first, Jiang Chen said. Chu Yuan snorted coldly and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Then, he gave some medicinal pellets to the three of them to recover from their injuries. But the three of them were very clear that their injuries could not be completely healed. That arrogant bastard. He has completely offended senior brother Chu Yuan. Now he will suffer, Gao Yang said fiercely, but he was still immersed in pain. Because even if Chu Yuan killed Jiang Chen, it would not be able to make up for the loss of his arms. You guys go and cultivate. I will go and meet that Jiang Chen and see what makes him so arrogant that he doesn't even put me, Chu Yuan, in his eyes. After saying that, Chu Yuan's body flashed and disappeared. The three of them also left Chu Yuan's courtyard. This place was very noble and not a place where they could stay for a long time. They had their own place to cultivate. In front of the palace of the Iron Dummy Array, De Huang Dog had completed the final repair of the Iron Dummy Array. The 7-star alignment array and the horn array were perfectly integrated. With the 21 puppets cooperating with each other, the power of the entire array was not weaker than before. Instead, it had become more tyrannical. Boy, you have to make it up to Master Dog, De Huang Dog said. After such a long period of continuous high-intensity array, his condition had begun to weaken. How about a lotus leaf? Chapter 1182. The formation has been repaired. Let's go to Tianji Peak. Jiang Chen closed the gate of the palace and prepared to go to Tianji Peak. You've chopped off the arms of those three guys. That bullshit Chu Yuan will definitely not let you go. It seems that your days here will not be peaceful, De Huang Dog said. Although he was focused on setting up the formation when Gao Yang and the other two came looking for trouble, he was still aware of everything that happened outside. When have my days been peaceful? Jiang Chen shrugged, indicating that he did not care at all. He had encountered too many enemies along the way and Chu Yuan was definitely not the strongest one. Just as Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog were about to go to Tianji Peak, a strong aura flew over from the direction of Inner Sect. This aura was obviously filled with anger and killing intent. Obviously, this person did not come with good intentions. You're here so soon. De Huang Dog curled his lips. Since I'm here, let's meet him in case others look down on me. Jiang Chen smiled and his eyes began to flicker with cold light. Bang! A white-clothed figure landed heavily in front of Jiang Chen. It was none other than Chu Yuan. You are Jiang Chen? Chu Yuan looked at Jiang Chen from head to toe. This was his first time meeting Jiang Chen, which was different from what he had expected. However, this did not affect his killing intent towards Jiang Chen. It seems that I'm very popular. So many people want to find me. I hope you are not here to look for trouble because I have just crippled three of them, Jiang Chen said indifferently. He had already guessed the identity of this person. Humph! In the entire Inner Sect, no one has ever dared to hurt my people. You're the first one. Jiang Chen, you have to pay for what you've done, said Jiang Chen. Chu Yuan snorted coldly. It's a pity that you don't have that. Jiang Chen was well aware of the other party's purpose in coming here. He knew that this was an unavoidable dispute, so he naturally wouldn't be polite with his words. Chu Yuan was a half-step divine immortal expert and an Inner Sect genius, which made him very difficult to deal with, but Jiang Chen wasn't afraid of him. If it was before, he might not be a match for Chu Yuan, but now that his cultivation base had advanced to the half-step heaven immortal realm, he could easily kill a late heaven immortal expert. In his half-dragon form, it wouldn't be a problem for him to fight a half-step divine immortal expert. Plus, the battle with the puppet had given him tremendous benefits. Even if he encountered Chu Yuan, he wouldn't feel the slightest bit of fear. Arrogant. You are indeed the most arrogant person I have ever seen. Unfortunately, You do not have the qualifications to be arrogant before me. In the inner sect, those who offend me, Chu Yuan, will never have a good ending. In the inner sect, those who offend me will never have a good ending, said Chu Yuan Lang Lang. Despite his pride, he had to admit that Jiang Chen was the most arrogant person he had ever seen. Then you can give it a try. I would also like to see how powerful the inner sect genius is. Jiang Chen's battle intent was aroused instantly. It would be more interesting to fight a genius like Chu Yuan. At least, it would arouse his interest and passion. All right. Jiang Chen, I'm afraid that you won't dare to accept my challenge. In that case, how about we have a life and death duel on the life and death stage? Chu Yuan's eyes flashed and said loudly. He looked at Jiang Chen expectantly, fearing that Jiang Chen wouldn't dare to accept his challenge. Hearing this, Jiang Chen's face instantly turned cold. He didn't know Chu Yuan, but Chu Yuan actually wanted to fight him on the life and death duel stage. It should be known that only those who had deep hatred would go to the life and death duel stage of the sect. Jiang Chen could see that Chu Yuan didn't attack him directly because he wanted to fight him on the life and death duel stage. According to the rules of the sect, disciples of the same sect were not allowed to kill each other. Therefore, Chu Yuan would have a reason to kill Jiang Chen on the life and death duel stage. This situation made Jiang Chen instantly have a strong killing intent towards Chu Yuan. Jiang Chen only had one way to deal with those who wanted to kill him, and that was to let them reap what they had sown. Jiang Chen felt that his method was very ruthless. Breaking the arms of those three bastards was already considered cruel, but Chu Yuan's heart was even more ruthless. He wanted to kill Jiang Chen just for the sake of his face. What? You don't dare? Didn't you say that you want to see the power of an inner sect genius? I know that you have the strength to kill a late heaven immortal expert, and I admit that you are the most heaven-defying genius I have ever seen, but you have offended me. If you don't dare to fight on the life and death duel stage, then kneel down and kowtow to me. I won't ask you to compensate me. Let's just pretend that nothing has happened. What do you think? Chu Yuan looked at Jiang Chen with great interest. He wanted to see how Jiang Chen would answer. If Jiang Chen agreed, it would be the best. He would make Jiang Chen die on the platform. If Jiang Chen didn't agree, then Jiang Chen would have to kowtow to him. Tianjizi's newly accepted successor disciple knelt down and kowtowed to him. This was a very prestigious thing. Most importantly, Tianjizi would never be able to raise his head among the higher-ups. He would become a laughingstock. His master could laugh at him whenever he wanted. As you wish. I agree. Jiang Chen had no choice but to agree to it. He knew very well about Chu Yuan's intention. The battle between him and Chu Yuan was no longer a simple battle between inner sect disciples. It was a battle between true disciples. Normally, the battle between true disciples would involve the higher UPS in it. Jiang Chen had no choice but to agree to it. Jiang Chen couldn't lose face for Tianjizi. Since Chu Yuan wanted to humiliate him, he would let him seek his own humiliation. Good. Jiang Chen, you have guts. Come to the life and death duel stage then. Chu Yuan said and leaped up, flying towards the direction of the inner sect. The next moment, the sound of war drums was heard in the inner sect. It was Chu Yuan's drum. Once the drum sounded, it meant that someone was going to fight a life and death duel. This guy is really impatient. Little Chenzi, are you confident? De Huang Dog looked at Jiang Chen. What do you think? Jiang Chen smiled. He then summoned his flaming wings and flew towards the inner sect. De Huang Dog followed behind and laughed. Jiang Chen had just caused a big event in the Iron Dummy Array yesterday. Today, he was going to cause another big event. Others might not know Jiang Chen, but De Huang Dog knew him very well. Jiang Chen would never do anything he wasn't confident about. Since he dared to accept the challenge, Chu Yuan would definitely not have an easy time. The sound of the war drums. It's the sound of the war drums from the life and death duel stage. Is someone going to fight a life and death duel? Let's go and have a look. It has been a long time since someone has fought a life and death duel in the inner sect. The sound of the war drums is starting to sound strange. I wonder who has such a deep hatred towards them. Look who it is. There will be a good show today. Chapter 1183. Dong dong dong. The sound of the war drum resounded in the sky above the entire inner court. Everyone was familiar with this sound. It was the drum of the life and death duel. Once a life and death duel was about to take place, The war drum must be sounded and the duel would take place in front of countless disciples. With the sound of the war drum, figures began to fly toward the martial arts practice field. Every life and death duel was a big event for the inner court. Everyone wanted to see who was going to participate in the life and death duel. The life and death duel drum had not sounded for a long time because ordinary people would not participate in the life and death duel unless they had a deep hatred for each other. The purpose of the life and death duel was to resolve the matter of life and death. Once on the duel, life and death were determined by fate. Therefore, once someone decided to participate in the life and death duel, it meant that there was a deep hatred between them that could not be resolved and could only be resolved by a fight to the death. The sound of the war drums not only alerted countless inner sect disciples, but also the Inner Sect Elders Institute. What's going on? Why is the war drum being sounded? Hey, the war drum has not been sounded for a long time. I wonder which two disciples have such a deep hatred for each other that they are going to fight to the death. Young people are so impulsive. Let's go and have a look. After all, the life and death duel is not a small matter. Moreover, we don't know who it is. The elders of the Elder Court also came out. The life and death duel was a big event in the inner court. As the elders, they should pay attention to it. On the high life and death duel, Chu Yuan stood solemnly with an arrogant and hideous smile on his face. This time, he was going to kill Jiang Chen openly. Look, it's Chu Yuan. How could it be him? It's really Chu Yuan. Who the hell offended this guy? But the person who dares to fight Chu Yuan in the life and death duel is too bold. Yes, Chu Yuan is a true disciple and one of the best in the inner court. No one dares to offend him. Those who offend him usually do not have a good ending. But this is the first time that he is going to fight in the life and death duel. I wonder who his opponent is. Seeing that the person standing on the fighting platform was Chu Yuan, everyone was shocked. No one had ever dared to offend this little emperor of the inner sect. But today, someone dared to challenge Chu Yuan to a life and death duel. It was obvious that this person was courting death. Apart from courting death, this person was too daring. When the elders saw Chu Yuan, they were also very surprised. At this time, they began to have a strong interest in Chu Yuan's opponent. While everyone was still in shock, a young man with a pair of flaming wings flew over and landed on the fighting ring. He stood opposite Chu Yuan. Jiang Chen. Many people cried out in surprise when they saw who it was. The elders of the Assembly of Elders widened their eyes in disbelief. Motherfucker. It's this guy again. He just challenged the Iron Dummy Array yesterday, and now he wants to have a life and death battle with Chu Yuan? Is this guy really not afraid of death? Isn't his cultivation base only at the half-step heaven immortal realm? With such a cultivation base, how could he fight the little emperor of the inner sect? Could it be that he is just relying on his identity as a true disciple? The identity of a true disciple is useless in a life and death battle. Plus, Chu Yuan is also a true disciple. What I'm surprised about is how did these two guys collide with each other? That Jiang Chen has just become an inner sect disciple. Plus, they have never met before, let alone any enmity between them. How did they decide to have a life and death battle? Seeing that Chu Yuan's opponent turned out to be Jiang Chen, many of them felt dizzy and couldn't help but roll their eyes. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it. Although both of them were true disciples, the gap between their cultivation base was just too big. Half-step heaven immortal versus half-step divine immortal. No one knew where did Jiang Chen get his courage from. Chu Yuan, Jiang Chen, what's wrong with you two? Chu Yuan, as an elite of the inner sect, how could you have a life and death battle with a half-step heaven immortal? Isn't this beneath your dignity? Great Elder Li Zhong stood out and spoke. He had a good impression of Jiang Chen, but he knew Chu Yuan better. Jiang Chen couldn't afford to offend Chu Yuan. In his point of view, given the huge gap between their cultivation base, there was only one ending for Jiang Chen, death without a burial place. As the great elder, he naturally had to step forward to stop such an unfair duel. Although Chu Yuan was arrogant, he still gave face to Li Zhong. After all, Li Zhong was the great elder of inner sect and a mighty late divine immortal expert. Great elder, this Jiang Chen isn't an ordinary half-step heaven immortal. At dawn today, I sent Gao Yang and the other two to the Iron Dummy Array to see how Jiang Chen is repairing the array. I didn't expect that this bastard would let a dog repair the array. This is simply a humiliation to the Iron Dummy Array. Gao Yang and the other two couldn't stand it and said a few words. Then, Their arms were chopped off by Jiang Chen. As everyone knows, Gao Yang and the other two are my disciples. Not only did Jiang Chen cripple them, he also didn't give me any face. If I don't seek justice for this matter, won't I become the laughing stock of the inner sect? Chu Yuan spoke aloud about what had happened to Gao Yang and the other two. He now had plenty of reasons to kill Jiang Chen. What? Upon hearing Chu Yuan's words, everyone exclaimed. Innumerable eyes fell upon Jiang Chen at the same time. Apart from disbelief, there was also deep shock in their eyes. Not only them, even Li Zhong's mouth was wide open. Gao Yang was a late heaven immortal expert, but he wasn't a match for Jiang Chen at all. How powerful was this Jiang Chen? He was merely a half-step heaven immortal expert, but his combat strength was just too heaven-defying. No wonder Chu Yuan wants to have a life-and-death duel with him. This matter has really shamed Chu Yuan. Given his arrogance, he will never let Jiang Chen go. Is that Jiang Chen really that terrifying? I have never seen anyone with such terrifying combat strength when he is only a half-step heaven immortal expert. If that's the case, it means that he has at least the combat strength of a half-step divine immortal expert. Plus, the fact that he has the guts to challenge Chu Yuan to a life-and-death duel indicates that he has some confidence in himself. This is really surprising. This Jiang Chen is too cruel. He actually chopped off the arms of Gao Yang and the other two. According to the rules, disciples of the same sect should be punished for killing each other, but he actually agreed to have a life-and-death duel with Chu Yuan. It seems like he doesn't know anything about Chu Yuan's strength. He is courting death. Chapter 1184. In addition to the shock, they also figured out the grudge between Chu Yuan and Jiang Chen. Everyone was very clear that even if Jiang Chen really chopped off the arms of Gao Yang and the others, Jiang Chen could not be blamed for it. Checking the restoration of the iron dummy array should be the Elders Institute's business, so it was not Chu Yuan's business. It was only because Jiang Chen was the true disciple of Tianjizi that Chu Yuan took the initiative to find trouble with him. After all, many people knew about the relationship between Tianjizi and Yang Shu, so it was self-evident that there was something fishy going on. In other words, the fight between Chu Yuan and Jiang Chen was not just a fight between ordinary disciples, but also a conflict between high-level elders. Even Li Zhong could not intervene. Jiang Chen, is what Chu Yuan said true? Li Zhong asked with a frown. It's true, but I naturally have my reasons for chopping off their arms. It's a miracle that they are still alive now, said Jiang Chen plainly. He was standing on the life-and-death stage. His facial expression didn't change at all. There wasn't a trace of panic in his expression. Such a performance alone was enough to make people admire him. In the inner sect, it was afraid that only Jiang Chen could remain so calm in front of Chu Yuan. Humph! Jiang Chen, you are too arrogant. Unfortunately, your arrogance will only be trampled on by me. Chu Yuan snorted coldly. Now that they were on the life-and-death arena, even the great elder had no right to intervene in the fight between them. Chu Yuan felt that he had 100 ways to kill Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen, did you really agree to have a life-and-death arena with Chu Yuan? Li Zhong continued to ask. It seemed that as long as Jiang Chen said no, he would step forward to stop him. In Li Zhong's opinion, no matter how talented Jiang Chen was, he was definitely not a match for Chu Yuan. Since Chu Yuan was accepted as a true disciple by Yang Shu, his talent could be imagined. Ordinary disciples couldn't compare with him at all. Basically, no one in the inner sect dared to provoke him. In addition, there was a huge gap between his cultivation and Jiang Chen's, so Jiang Chen was not a match for Chu Yuan at all. Yes, Elder. I've already stood up. There's no reason for me to go down. Jiang Chen smiled with unwavering confidence on his face. Chu Yuan was indeed a strong opponent, but it was precisely because of his tyrannical strength that Jiang Chen was more interested in him. Sigh. Li Zhong shook his head with a sigh and said no more. Both of them were the best among the young generation. Both of them had their own pride. Jiang Chen wouldn't listen to him. Besides, he would offend Chu Yuan if he said too much, which wouldn't do him any good. This Jiang Chen is really fearless. He doesn't know how terrifying Chu Yuan is. That's right. This matter was started by Chu Yuan. Given Jiang Chen's intelligence, it's impossible for him not to know that this life-and-death arena was a trap set by Chu Yuan. Why did he agree to it? I think Jiang Chen isn't a fool. He's smarter than anyone else. Since he dared to step onto the life and death arena, it means that he has a certain level of confidence. Plus, he could easily defeat Gao Yang with his half-step Heaven Immortal cultivation base, which means that his combat strength is equivalent to that of a half-step Divine Immortal expert. Perhaps, he can really defeat Chu Yuan. Those inner sect elders sighed, thinking that Jiang Chen shouldn't have agreed to Chu Yuan's request. Even a fool could see that Chu Yuan had set a trap for Jiang Chen. However, some of them also believed that Jiang Chen had his own means and trump card. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted so recklessly. Jiang Chen, make your move now. Don't say that I'm bullying you. I'll let you have the first 3 moves. Chu Yuan provoked Jiang Chen. Hong. As soon as Chu Yuan's voice faded, Jiang Chen's body began to change. A surge of blood qi was released from his body and he turned into a half-human half-dragon. Such a transformation made countless people widen their eyes, including Chu Yuan. All of them had forgotten that Jiang Chen had a terrifying transformation skill. What a terrifying transformation skill. His combat strength has increased by at least 10 times, right? That's right. It's indeed terrifying. I have never seen such a skill before. It's much more powerful than some taboo arts. It's unimaginable. Sure enough, this Jiang Chen has a powerful trump card. I'm a late Heaven Immortal expert, but I feel that there's a huge gap between my qi and Jiang Chen's qi. I'm afraid that I will be instantly killed by Jiang Chen if I go forward. What a monstrous genius. Jiang Chen's dragon transformation immediately caused an uproar. Previously, there was news from Shenyang School that Jiang Chen had a transformation skill, but most of them didn't care about it. This was the first time that Jiang Chen used this skill in Tianyun Pavilion. Except for Tianji Zi, no one else had seen it through the crystal ball. So it was no wonder that they were shocked. It's just a heretical skill. Do you think that you can compete with me with this? How ignorant. Chu Yuan sneered. Even though he had seen Jiang Chen's terrifying transformation, he still didn't put Jiang Chen in his eyes. His huge advantage in cultivation gave him the greatest confidence. Does it count if you give me 3 moves first? Jiang Chen said. Of course. How can I, Chu Yuan, go against my words? Chu Yuan placed his hands behind his back, looking extremely arrogant. All right, thank you for letting me win. Jiang Chen's eyes flickered. His entire being turned into an arrow that was released from the bow, leaving his original spot with a swoosh. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Chu Yuan and struck out a terrifying true dragon palm. A giant blood-red dragon claw slammed down with mountain-like pressure. The terrifying energy locked Chu Yuan, confining the airflow in the surroundings. What? Chu Yuan's expression changed. He didn't expect Jiang Chen to be so terrifying. His attack was so powerful that even he didn't dare to be careless when facing it. Chu Yuan hurriedly stretched out his palm and launched several dazzling palm prints, which collided with Jiang Chen's true dragon palm. The collision caused the air to surge and sparks to fly. You're already resisting after just 1 move. If you can't afford to let me win, then don't. You asked for it. Jiang Chen's sarcastic words were like a knife stabbing into Chu Yuan's heart, making him so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. At this time, Chu Yuan's expression became extremely ugly. Just now, he had confidently said that he would let Jiang Chen have 3 moves first. In the end, he was forced to block the first move. It was really shameful. He really looked down on him. Jiang Chen, I admit that I have indeed underestimated you. However, don't be arrogant. Do you really think that you can fight with me with your little ability? Today, your fate is completely sealed in this life and death fighting ring. Chapter 1185. Hong. Chu Yuan was infuriated. He fully unleashed his half-step divine immortal qi. The horrifying qi waves were like tidal waves, coming wave after wave. If he was facing an ordinary opponent, his qi alone would be enough to frighten them and make them lose their will to fight. Toppling mountains and overturning seas. Chu Yuan bellowed and struck out a powerful combat skill. Just now, he said that he would allow Jiang Chen to make 3 moves, but he didn't even manage to make 1 move. This made him lose a lot of face. Therefore, he didn't hold back and decided to kill Jiang Chen as fast as possible. He wanted to destroy Jiang Chen once and for all so that he could regain his dignity. For a moment, the entire battle platform was filled with horrifying qi waves. Chu Yuan's attack was really powerful. The most important thing about this toppling mountains and overturning seas was its qi. It turned into waves that could topple mountains and overturn seas, oppressing the opponent to death. Your qi is indeed strong, but it's just an insignificant skill in front of me. Golden Dragon Seal. Jiang Chen's battle intent was unparalleled. Chu Yuan's tyrannical attack had aroused his battle intent. He yearned for that kind of pinnacle battle. In the face of Chu Yuan's toppling mountains and overturning seas, Jiang Chen struck out the Golden Dragon Seal unhurriedly. Among the 5 elements combat dragon seals, the Golden Dragon Seal was the most powerful. Roar! Along with a deafening dragon roar, 3 golden dragons spiraled out. Each of them was dozens of meters long and looked lifelike like real dragons. They came from 3 different directions and collided with Chu Yuan's toppling mountains and overturning seas with unparalleled destructive force. Hung long. Terrifying sounds of explosions were heard. Destructive energy waves were everywhere, causing the void to tremble violently. The sound of the tsunami and the roar of the dragon intertwined with each other. The scene was exceptionally spectacular. The entire battle platform was filled with dazzling brilliance. It looked very beautiful, but behind this beauty was endless destruction. Thud, thud, thud. After the collision, both Chu Yuan and Jiang Chen took 3 steps back at the same time before they could regain their balance. Jiang Chen's blood and qi were surging. Massive wood spiritual qi flushed through his body and restored him in an instant. His eyes were incomparably sharp, staring at Chu Yuan like a cold blade. Such an outcome was within his expectation. He did have the cultivation base to kill a half-step divine immortal expert, but that was only relative to an ordinary half-step divine immortal expert. It wouldn't be easy for him to kill someone like Chu Yuan. However, the more evenly matched a battle was, the more it would stimulate Jiang Chen's fighting spirit. Fighting against a genius like Chu Yun was also very beneficial to him. What? Compared to Jiang Chen's calmness, Chu Yuan was greatly shocked. He stared at Jiang Chen without blinking his eyes. He simply couldn't believe what he had just seen. However, it also gave him a new understanding of Jiang Chen's terrifying combat strength. It seemed like he had underestimated Jiang Chen. Both of them were evenly matched in terms of combat skills. This had shocked the inner sect disciples and the elders of the Institute of Elders. All of them widened their eyes, unable to believe what had just happened. The way they looked at Jiang Chen had drastically changed. They had all underestimated Jiang Chen's ability. Jiang Chen's face was filled with shock and disbelief. My God! How abnormal is this evildoer? How could he tie with Chu Yuan in such a fierce collision? I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. You're right. You're right. That's right. He's just a half-step heaven immortal. I've never seen a half-step heaven immortal with such insane combat strength. It's unbelievable. Even if I don't want to admit it, Jiang Chen is indeed the most monstrous genius I've ever seen. His future achievements are bound to be limitless. This is just too terrifying. He's totally inhuman. Is he really just a half-step heaven immortal? Even if his voice-changing skill has increased his combat strength by 10 times, there's no way he could be this powerful. The fact that Chu Yuan was able to become a true disciple showed that his talent was far beyond the ordinary. But compared to Jiang Chen, he was simply not worthy of being called a genius. If both of them had the same cultivation base, I'm afraid that Jiang Chen could kill Chu Yuan with a single breath. No one wasn't shocked. Although Jiang Chen and Chu Yuan had only collided once, the result had undoubtedly caused a great uproar. By now, no one dared to guarantee who would win today, because Jiang Chen indeed had the capability to fight Chu Yuan. I really didn't expect this. This Jiang Chen is much more powerful than we imagined. The experts of Institute of Elders sighed. It seems like today's battle is going to be interesting. Jiang Chen's power is beyond everyone's imagination. It won't be easy for Chu Yuan to kill him. However, Chu Yuan isn't as simple as he seems to be. He still has some powerful trump cards and means that he hasn't used yet. Jiang Chen will still be in great danger. Great Elder Li Zhong sighed. Although he was still a little worried about Jiang Chen, this worry was much less than before. He was even looking forward to this battle. If Jiang Chen could create another miracle and defeat Chu Yuan today, he would become a legend in Tianyun Pavilion. Of course, Li Zhong felt that it was impossible. In his opinion, it was already amazing that Jiang Chen was not killed by Chu Yuan. It was undoubtedly a fantasy for Jiang Chen to defeat Chu Yuan. Rumble. On the battle platform, Chu Yuan moved once more. Like a ferocious tiger, he lunged at Jiang Chen with boundless violent energy like a storm. On the other side, Jiang Chen had been calm all this while. He kept using the 5 elemental combat dragon seal and true dragon palm to collide with Chu Yuan's attacks continuously. The two of them were locked in the center of the whirlpool of the storm. Neither of them could tell who was the winner or loser. The violent battle lasted for more than 10 minutes. Chu Yuan and Jiang Chen were still standing opposite each other. At the sight of this, many people couldn't help but exclaim. At first, they thought that Jiang Chen was lucky to be able to withstand Chu Yuan's attack. But now, they had completely changed their view. A person could be lucky once or twice, but to remain undefeated after a dozen minutes of collision, it wasn't luck but true strength. They are evenly matched. I can't believe that he is equally matched with Chu Yuan. This is simply heaven-defying. One should know that very few half-step divine immortal experts in our sect could be evenly matched with Chu Yuan. Such a figure is beyond our imagination. There will always be some unusual existences in this heaven and earth. Their existence can't be judged by common sense. Jiang Chen is one of them. He is a peerless genius, the darling of heaven. He is envied by others. Chapter 1186. This was the first time that Jiang Chen had entered the inner sect, and also the first day that Jiang Chen became an inner sect disciple after passing the Iron Dummy Array. Everyone else entered the inner sect by exchanging their identity jade token, but Jiang Chen used this unusual method to become an inner sect disciple. The current Jiang Chen had struck the nerves of all the inner sect disciples with his mighty strength. Such a situation had made him the focus of countless inner sect disciples the moment he arrived in the sect. If he was lucky enough to defeat Chu Yuan today, he would be able to lay a solid foundation in the inner sect, and no one would dare to offend him. That's right. Of course, the biggest thought that everyone had was that Jiang Chen could defeat Chu Yuan and create another miracle. No one thought that Jiang Chen could kill Chu Yuan, even though this was a life-and-death battle platform. After all, Chu Yuan's identity was too special. Even if Jiang Chen was extremely daring, he wouldn't dare to kill Chu Yuan, because killing Chu Yuan would mean going against Elder Yang Shu. Jiang Chen, you've really infuriated me. You've made me lose a lot of face by fighting me like this. Next, I'll kill you in the shortest time possible and make you stay on this battle stage forever. Jiang Chen said. Chu Yuan's anger had reached its limit. He couldn't believe that a half-step heaven immortal couldn't defeat a half-step heaven immortal despite his cultivation base and ability. This was a humiliation. A serious humiliation to him. Show me what you've got. Don't just talk big. Jiang Chen sneered, totally not putting Chu Yuan in his eyes. He had a rough idea of Chu Yuan's ability. If he guessed it right, Chu Yuan would soon use his trump card, which would consume a lot of his energy. Jiang Chen wasn't afraid of energy consumption. His blood and qi were vigorous and he had 450,000 dragon marks. Anyone who wanted to fight a war of attrition with him would end up with the same result. When Chu Yuan couldn't maintain his peak condition, there would be a gap between the two of them. In that case, Jiang Chen would have the chance to kill Chu Yuan. As a veteran of hundreds of battles, Jiang Chen's combat experience could no longer be described as abundant. In this aspect, even 100 Chu Yuan couldn't be compared to Jiang Chen. Chu Yuan didn't speak anymore. His eyes turned incomparably deep. A wave of nirvana qi overflowed from his body. As this qi drifted, the entire platform was instantly filled with it. It was the qi of destruction, the true taste of nirvana. Just the weak qi alone was enough to make people tremble in fear. It's the 9 forms of nirvana. Chu Yuan is finally going to use a powerful attack. The 9 forms of nirvana is his biggest trump card. I didn't expect that Jiang Chen could force Chu Yuan to such an extent. Even if Jiang Chen is defeated by the 9 forms of nirvana, it won't be shameful. It's said that this powerful combat technique has the power to destroy the heavens and earth. That kind of qi of nirvana can make one's soul tremble. Those who are shrouded by it will have the thought of being unable to resist. It's rare to see Chu Yuan using the 9 styles of nirvana in the inner sect. It seems like Chu Yuan is determined to kill Jiang Chen. It will be a pity if a genius of the generation falls here. I heard that Chu Yuan has cultivated the 9 forms of nirvana to the 6th form. It's extremely powerful and lethal. If Jiang Chen doesn't have a powerful trump card to support him, It will be difficult for him to survive under Chu Yuan's 9 forms of nirvana. Look, it's time to decide the winner. I'm really looking forward to it. As the chi of nirvana radiated from Chu Yuan's body, many of them became nervous. As an inner sect disciple, almost all of them knew about Chu Yuan's famous unique skill. It was the 9 styles of nirvana that was taught to him by Yang Shu. Chu Yuan was talented and had already cultivated to the 6th style. Very few people in the inner sect could resist this trump card of Chu Yuan's. Therefore, even though Jiang Chen's performance was incomparably powerful and had reached the same level as Chu Yuan, they were afraid that it wouldn't be easy for him to withstand the 9 styles of nirvana. Nirvana represented death. Therefore, the aura that Chu Yuan carried could make his opponents smell the smell of death. Under the shadow of death, he would gradually lose himself and die tragically in Chu Yuan's hands. Jiang Chen, wait for the judgment of death. In the inner sect, there are not many people who can force me to use the 9 forms of nirvana. Chu Yuan had gone completely berserk. His body was suspended in the air, and his body was completely shrouded by the pale gray aura of nirvanic extermination. It made Chu Yuan look like a powerful god of death. All living beings would tremble in front of the god of death, and all his opponents would only have one ending: death. 9 forms of nirvana, the first form. Chu Yuan shouted and a black storm swept down. This storm evolved into a scene of reincarnation, and the smell of death was everywhere. Jiang Chen seemed to see a reincarnation passage. This passage was extremely magical. It could actually create illusions and affect people's minds. If it was someone else, they would have been deeply affected by this illusion. However, this kind of mental influence completely didn't exist when Chu Yuan was fighting against Jiang Chen. After all, the 9 forms of nirvana was an offensive combat skill. It was not a technique that specialized in creating illusions. Compared to the Great Illusion Realm, there was still a huge gap. Since Jiang Chen could create the Great Illusion Realm, how could his mind be affected by the illusion in front of him? Ka-ka. Ka-ka sounds were heard in the reincarnation passage. Countless black death storms finally condensed into a huge scythe. The huge scythe was dozens of feet long. It was completely black and exuded endless death chi. The death scythe. That's right. This was the power of the first form of the 9 forms of nirvana. All of this power came from the evolved death scythe. This strike could often penetrate the enemy's soul and cause the enemy to suffer endless torture and die under the destruction of the death scythe. Go! Chu Yuan bellowed. The death scythe let out a terrifying and gloomy howl, lunging at Jiang Chen at an unparalleled speed. At this time, all the spectators couldn't help but feel nervous. Even though they were far away from the scythe, they could already feel the strong smell of death, let alone Jiang Chen who was in the middle of it. What a terrifying 9 forms of nirvana. It directly makes people feel the threat of death. It's so powerful. If I were on the battlefield at this moment, I'm afraid I would have died under the death scythe. That's right. This is only the first form and it's already so terrifying. Won't the later forms be more and more terrifying? I really don't know how Jiang Chen can resist it. Chapter 1187. Death had arrived. Jiang Chen's expression was still as calm as before. He didn't panic at all. The death scythe and the chi of death couldn't affect his mind at all. Therefore, the 9 styles of nirvana was just a combat skill that had a relatively high lethality to him. The true advantage of this skill was useless against Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen pointed his finger like a sword. It had been a long time since he last used the profound 9 solar finger, but he couldn't deny it. The profound 9 solar finger was a combat skill with great offensive strength. Furthermore, it was a pure yang energy, and it was the nemesis of the destructive force. Mysterious 9 solar fingers. As Jiang Chen shouted, the flaming wings on Jiang Chen's back began to flap. At the same time, the powerful mysterious 9 solar fingers appeared like a golden pillar of light. 9 huge golden fingers made a whistling sound and then quickly fused together into a huge finger. The patterns on the huge golden finger were extremely clear. It was like a real finger. It was dazzling with golden light. No one knew how powerful the attack was. Rumble. The mysterious 9 solar fingers broke through the death chi and directly entered the reincarnation passage. It collided with the death scythe. Under countless nervous gazes, the 2 completely different auras exploded and intertwined. In the end, the death scythe and the huge golden finger disappeared at the same time. They turned into 2 different colored waves and dissipated between the heaven and the earth. Chu Yuan's expression changed again. He did not expect that Jiang Chen could withstand his 9 forms of nirvana so easily. Even if it was only the first form, he thought that Jiang Chen would be greatly affected. Even if he did not die, he would at least be injured and shaken. However, it seemed that Jiang Chen still dealt with it with ease and was not affected by the death qi at all. How could Chu Yuan not be shocked? Amazing! Look, I knew that Jiang Chen also had a trump card. It's really hard to imagine that he could withstand the 9 forms of nirvana. This Jiang Chen is really amazing. Jiang Chen is indeed amazing, but we can't be happy too early. After all, Chu Yuan only displayed the first form of the 9 forms of nirvana. He has already cultivated this powerful combat skill to the 6th form. Now that Chu Yuan is angry and wants to kill Jiang Chen, his next attack will definitely be more violent. I wonder what other methods Jiang Chen has to resist. Look, it's getting more and more exciting. No matter who wins today, it's worth watching. The voices of astonishment were getting louder and louder. Countless inner disciples had completely changed their views on Jiang Chen. Many of them didn't think that Jiang Chen could win in the beginning and thought that Jiang Chen would definitely die if he encountered Chu Yuan. But now it seemed that it wasn't the case. Chu Yuan had displayed the 9 forms of nirvana, but he still couldn't defeat Jiang Chen. He didn't even cause any damage to Jiang Chen. Just this alone was enough for Jiang Chen to be proud. Jiang Chen's strength also showed that Tianjizi had a sharp vision. Tianjizi never accepted disciples, but this time, he made an exception for Jiang Chen. It could be seen that his vision was extremely sharp. Chu Yuan's heart began to pound. Even though Jiang Chen was his enemy, the way he looked at Jiang Chen was completely different. This guy's blood and qi are extremely vigorous after his transformation. It seems that he has inexhaustible energy in his body. If I continue to fight with him, I'm afraid it'll be disadvantageous for me. I'll continue to display the 9 forms of nirvana to kill him in the fastest way possible. Chu Yuan thought to himself. Jiang Chen was much stronger than he had imagined. At this moment, he couldn't use the previous method anymore. He had to attack with lightning speed. Whoosh! The gloomy gale continued to blow. The qi of death on Chu Yuan's body became denser. The atmosphere on the battlefield became extremely tense. Even Jiang Chen's expression was incomparably solemn. He knew that Chu Yuan was going to launch a frenzied attack. The collision with the first style of the 9 styles of nirvana had shown Jiang Chen the scariness of this combat technique. Therefore, Jiang Chen had to do his best in the next battle. 9 forms of nirvana. Chu Yuan shouted again and the reincarnation passage appeared again. Inside the reincarnation passage, black lights flickered and condensed into new death scythes. As Chu Yuan continued to inject energy into them, the number and attack power of the death scythes increased. Look, Chu Yuan is serious. He has displayed the 5th form of the 9 forms of nirvana. Its power is unbelievable. Let's see how Jiang Chen can resist it. The atmosphere became tense. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Numerous frightening death scythes were unleashed. Compared to the first style, no matter if it was in terms of quantity or strength, the death scythes were much stronger. Facing this kind of attack, even if Jiang Chen kept using the 9 solar fingers, he still wouldn't be able to defend himself. Good. I like this kind of battle the most. Jiang Chen released his aura. His whole body was covered in blood-red light, and a huge amount of blood qi converged into the shape of a dragon. The Heavenly Saint's sword roared and appeared in Jiang Chen's hand. At this moment, the Heavenly Saint's sword didn't look like a sword anymore. It looked like a blood dragon, a dragon of battle and also a sword of death. Storm of swords. Jiang Chen exerted all his strength. His whole body and the Heavenly Saint's sword seemed to have become one. The 450,000 dragon marks in his body rippled and endless energy was instilled into the Heavenly Saint's sword. Swish, swish, swish. Incomparably bright sword lights were displayed by Jiang Chen. It was a sea of swords. Tyrannical long swords could be seen everywhere. In terms of momentum, it wasn't any weaker than Chu Yuan's 9 forms of nirvana. The number of dragon swords was even greater than the number of death scythes. Clang, clang, clang. The dragon swords collided with the death scythes violently, creating a lot of sparks. The current power of the Heavenly Saint's sword was much stronger than an ordinary heaven-grade immortal weapon. Coupled with the enhancement of his natal weapon, it could be said that Jiang Chen's combat strength had reached its peak. The sky above the martial field was filled with destructive qi waves. All the spectators couldn't help but hold their breaths, feeling the powerful aftermath of the battlefield. Even though they were far away from the battlefield, they still couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. Powerful. Such a battle was unimaginable to ordinary inner sect disciples. If a late heaven immortal expert were to step into such a fierce battle, he or she would be shredded into powder immediately. The void rippled and the collisions didn't stop. Whether it was Chu Yuan or Jiang Chen, such a battle consumed a lot of energy. Chapter 1188. The ripples of the battle were getting bigger and bigger. Jiang Chen and Chu Yuan were still evenly matched. Even though Chu Yuan had casted out the powerful 9 styles of nirvana, he still couldn't cause any damage to Jiang Chen. It wasn't an exaggeration to describe Jiang Chen's means as heaven-defying. The terrifying long sword had blocked all of Chu Yuan's death scythes. Great Elder, Jiang Chen is simply a miracle. Look, he's getting more and more courageous as the battle goes on. His chi is still in its peak state, just like what happened in the Iron Dummy Array yesterday. Chu Yuan, on the other hand, has obviously consumed a lot of his energy after using the 9 styles of nirvana. An elder from the Elders' Assembly exclaimed in shock. They had never imagined such a scene before them. Jiang Chen is indeed amazing. As long as a genius like him doesn't die prematurely, his future will be limitless. Chu Yuan only has one last move left. If his 6th move of the 9 styles of nirvana still couldn't inflict any substantial damage on Jiang Chen, the one who will win today will be Jiang Chen, not Chu Yuan. Great Elder Li Zhong's eyes sparkled. Ever since he met Jiang Chen for the first time, Jiang Chen had brought him too many surprises. As a late divine immortal expert, his eyesight was very unique. Chu Yuan's energy consumption was getting greater and greater, especially after using the 9 styles of nirvana. His chi was getting weaker and weaker. If the 6th move still couldn't inflict any damage on Jiang Chen, Chu Yuan wouldn't be able to maintain his peak state. Then, it would be Jiang Chen's chance. 9 styles of nirvana, the 6th move. Chu Yuan didn't dare to be careless, nor did he dare to hold back. Before the power of the first 5 moves faded, he immediately used the 6th move. The situation became chaotic again. The power of the 6th move was the superposition of the first 5 moves. The reincarnation passage doubled in size, and the number of death scythes inside instantly doubled. The entire reincarnation passage had turned into a sea of scythes. There were even ghostly wails and wolf howls that made one's scalp go numb. It was indescribably uncomfortable. It was hard to imagine what would happen if someone entered the reincarnation passage. This is Chu Yuan's final attack. The 6th move of the 9 styles of nirvana is much more powerful than before. I'm afraid there aren't many experts in the inner sect who can withstand this move. Sigh. I really didn't expect that Jiang Chen could force Chu Yuan to this point. Yeah, Jiang Chen's existence is indeed a miracle. He's the most heaven-defying genius I've ever seen. He can be described as a peerless monster. It seems that the winner will be decided soon. I wonder if Jiang Chen can withstand it. At this time, everyone knew that the battle had reached the final moment. Chu Yuan had already used the 6th move of the 9 styles of nirvana, which was also the strongest move he could use at the moment. On the opposite side, Jiang Chen clearly felt the power of the 9 styles of nirvana. His face was extremely solemn. Even with his arrogance, he had to admit that the 9 styles of nirvana was terrifying. This combat skill is indeed terrifying. If Chu Yuan had practiced to the 7th move, I'm afraid I wouldn't be a match for him. But now, I'll fight with him and see who's more powerful. Jiang Chen thought. He was slightly surprised by the terror of the 9 styles of nirvana, but he wasn't afraid. The stronger Chu Yuan was, the more competitive he was. True dragon son of heaven, dragon and sword as one. Let's fight. Jiang Chen's dragon roar resounded through the sky. With a sway of his body, he transformed from a half-dragon and half-human into a real blood dragon. The real dragon might filled the air. This was the first time that Jiang Chen had used his dragon transformation to fight. At this moment, he had transformed into the true dragon son of heaven, looking down on the world. Howl! The heavenly saint's sword let out a howl. It seemed to be affected by Jiang Chen's battle intent. The heavenly saint's sword became extremely excited. It directly turned into a dragon sword and merged with Jiang Chen. Look, that's a real dragon. How is this possible? A dragon is a divine beast, a supreme existence in the legends. How can it appear in the world? No, that's Jiang Chen's transformation skill. But it's too realistic. He has completely turned into a legendary dragon. This skill is simply heaven-defying. It's too miraculous. But he gives me the feeling of a real dragon. Is he a dragon or a human? Countless people were shocked once again. No one had thought that Jiang Chen would transform into a real dragon. That was a legendary noble creature. A true divine beast. After Jiang Chen transformed, the chi of a dragon had completely covered the chi of a human. When Jiang Chen was in his human form, he didn't have the slightest chi of a beast. Fundamentally speaking, Jiang Chen was still a human. Such a miraculous transformation was something that no one could understand. The miraculous transformation was something that people couldn't understand. The essence of the dragon transformation skill was the process of transforming from a human to a dragon. Jiang Chen's final destination was to become a real dragon, the Dragon King, the Dragon Ancestor, a noble existence that transcended everything. Roar! The dragon roar shook the sky. Jiang Chen's dragon and sword unification actually broke into the reincarnation passage. Countless blood-red lights spurted out from his body and turned into sharp swords. Under the control of Chu Yuan, the reincarnation passage constantly pressed against Jiang Chen. However, the pressure couldn't cause any harm to Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen swayed his dragon body and collided with those sharp death scythes. His body was already very strong. Now that he had fused with the Heavenly Saint's sword, he became even more indestructible. Every death scythe slashed on his body produced a clanging sound and sparks, but they couldn't hurt him at all. 5 Elements Combat Dragon Seal. Jiang Chen roared once more. At the last moment of the battle with Chu Yuan, he didn't hold back and used all his trump cards. A dozen different colored dragons rushed out of his body once more, wreaking havoc in the passageway of reincarnation. The scene was too shocking. Countless people were so shocked that they couldn't speak. The scene was too beautiful. It had completely turned into a world of dragons. Ka. Finally, due to the severe consumption of Chu Yuan's energy, he couldn't support the reincarnation passage perfectly. Under the frenzied attack of Jiang Chen, the reincarnation passage produced cracking sounds and cracks appeared. The number of death scythes inside began to decrease rapidly. My God! It looks like Chu Yuan can't hold on any longer. How could this be? Chu Yuan has consumed too much energy. That Jiang Chen seems to never be able to use up all his energy. He's truly a freak. His means are too heaven-defying. Transforming into a dragon and fusing with a dragon and sword unification. His destructive power is too shocking. He's only a half-step heaven immortal. How are we supposed to survive? Chapter 1189. What? Chu Yuan could no longer remain calm when he sensed that cracks had appeared on his reincarnation passage, and that it was in danger of shattering at any time. Moreover, the number of death scythes in the reincarnation passage was also decreasing. He immediately exclaimed. He deeply felt the terror of Jiang Chen. After Jiang Chen transformed into a real dragon, his imposing manner had reached its peak. His appearance alone was enough to cause great psychological pressure to people. Moreover, Chu Yuan had consumed too much of his energy to display the 6th style of the 9 styles of solitary extinction. It was already very difficult for him to maintain the reincarnation passage, let alone launch other attacks. Chu Yuan, you can't do it anymore. Your reincarnation passage has no effect on me at all. Your death aura also has no effect on me. Tear it apart for me. Jiang Chen suddenly roared. His gigantic dragon body twisted crazily. Countless blood-red rays shot out like sharp swords, rushing towards different directions of the reincarnation passageway. Edited by Lifer, Fingerfox. That was an energy as violent as the sea, endless and never-ending. Everyone was shocked once again. Of course, the one who was most shocked was Chu Yuan, who was fighting against Jiang Chen. No one had expected that Jiang Chen could still erupt such a violent energy at the end of the battle. One should know that a battle was a process of consumption, especially in a battle of life and death. Chu Yuan was a half-step divine immortal supreme expert. Naturally, the amount of energy in his body wasn't something an ordinary expert could compare with. However, the current situation was that the half-step divine immortal Chu Yuan's energy was almost depleted, but the chi that Jiang Chen unleashed was still the same as before, or even more ferocious. In other words, Jiang Chen's energy wasn't depleted at all during the previous battle. Or it could be said that Jiang Chen's energy was inexhaustible. This was undoubtedly very terrifying. Look, Jiang Chen's attack is too terrifying. His energy seems to be inexhaustible. He can still erupt such an attack at this time. It's much more terrifying than before. Freak, this is a super freak. Chu Yuan seems to be unable to hold on any longer. If that's the case, Chu Yuan's defeat is almost certain. This is really a terrifying thing. This result has already subverted our understanding. If he defeats Chu Yuan, who in the inner sect will dare to provoke him in the future? Everyone couldn't hold it in any longer. Jiang Chen could no longer be described as terrifying. He had defeated Chu Yuan with the cultivation of a half-step celestial immortal. On his first day in the inner sect, he had established a supreme position in the inner sect that was inviolable. Rumble. Finally, Chu Yuan's reincarnation passageway couldn't withstand Jiang Chen's ferocious attack. It was riddled with holes by the countless sword qi, and then exploded with a boom. All the scythes were destroyed along with the explosion. Edited by Lifer. Fingerfox. Chu Yuan let out a scream and spat out a large mouthful of blood. His entire body was completely dispirited. Affected by the impact of the huge energy, Chu Yuan's body was bounced down from the sky and landed heavily on the arena. The powerful impact caused the arena to tremble. In the sky, Jiang Chen returned to his human form. His white robes fluttered in the wind. He looked no different from before. He was still full of imposing manner, giving people a sense of majesty and pressure of a superior. Jiang Chen glanced at Chu Yuan below with Lang Lang, then flew down and stepped on Chu Yuan's face. Roar! This situation made Chu Yuan roar loudly. He struggled violently, but he couldn't break free from Jiang Chen's big foot. Being stepped on by someone he looked down upon in front of countless inner sect disciples and elders made Chu Yuan feel endless humiliation. This was worse than killing him. Edited by Lifer. Fingerfox. Jiang Chen, how dare you step on me? Chu Yuan roared. Do you think I will just step on you? This is the arena of life and death. Jiang Chen said in an incomparably cold tone. His words undoubtedly reminded Chu Yuan, causing his body to tremble. Yes, this was the arena of life and death. Jiang Chen had the right to kill him. Compared to death, being stepped on was nothing. Jiang Chen, how dare you kill me? Who do you think you are? Not to mention killing me, you will have to pay an extremely heavy price for what you have done today. Chu Yuan didn't believe that Jiang Chen would dare to kill him. He was a genius of the inner sect and a successor disciple of a golden immortal elder. Even if Jiang Chen had more guts, Jiang Chen wouldn't dare to kill him, even if this was the arena of life and death. Oh no, it seems that Jiang Chen has the intention to kill. Do you think he dares to kill Chu Yuan? Of course not. Although Chu Yuan was defeated, he has a tyrannical background. If Jiang Chen kills a successor disciple, Elder Yang Shu will definitely not let it go. In the Tianyun Pavilion, no one dares to really touch Chu Yuan. Yes, I guess he won't. Although this is the arena of life and death, Jiang Chen is already very amazing to be able to defeat Chu Yuan. It can be said that he has completely established his position in the Tianyun Pavilion. From now on, not many people will dare to provoke him. The result made countless people sigh. It was something that no one had imagined. However, many people felt that it was impossible for Jiang Chen to kill Jiang Chen. After all, if he killed Chu Yuan, he would be going against Yang Shu. How would he live in the future? Pah! Jiang Chen lifted Chu Yuan from the ground as if he was carrying a dead pig. Jiang Chen, I have said that you won't dare to kill me. Moreover, I will take revenge for today's hatred sooner or later. Chu Yuan looked at Jiang Chen fiercely and said, Chu Yuan, I have to admit that your IQ is too low. You can still say such words at this time. I really don't know where your sense of superiority comes from. If you had begged me for mercy just now, I might have spared your life. Unfortunately, you actually threatened me. In that case, I must kill you today. A cold light flashed in Jiang Chen's eyes. He had never been threatened by others, especially his enemies. If he didn't kill Chu Yuan, there would be a lot of trouble in the future. In that case, it was better to solve the problem now. Feeling Jiang Chen's cold-killing intent, Chu Yuan's expression finally changed. He finally understood that Jiang Chen was the real ruthless person. Jiang Chen, you have won. Give this old man some face and let this matter go, the great Li Zhong quickly said. Great Elder Li Zhong spoke hastily. His words were for Jiang Chen's sake. After all, killing Chu Yuan wouldn't bring any benefits to Jiang Chen. Well, I will give face to the great elder. I won't kill you today. I will cripple you and make you completely put away that annoying sense of superiority, Jiang Chen said and slapped Chu Yuan's sea of qi with his palm. Chapter 1190. Hua. The scene was in an uproar after seeing Jiang Chen's action. Everyone widened their eyes, unable to believe and accept the scene in front of them. Jiang Chen was just too audacious. He actually crippled Chu Yuan. One should know that to a genius like Chu Yuan, crippling his cultivation base and turning him into a cripple was no different from killing him. Moreover, the consequences of Jiang Chen's action were too severe. Once Chu Yuan was crippled, the meaning of the battle would change completely. This was no longer an ordinary battle between inner sect disciples. At that time, Yang Shu would certainly not let this matter go. Moreover, Jiang Chen now had a powerful backer. Tianji Zi wasn't a person to be trifled with. If that was the case, things would get really heated up. Jiang Chen, stop. Upon seeing this, great elder Li Zhong turned pale with fright. He had never thought that Jiang Chen would be so bold. If Jiang Chen crippled Chu Yuan today, the consequences would be unimaginable. Li Zhong didn't have the time to think. He made a move decisively. Although he had already violated the rules by making a move at this moment, he had no choice but to make a move. As the great elder of the inner sect, if he were to watch a true disciple get killed, he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences if the powerful golden immortal elder were to blame him. However, Jiang Chen's attack was too fast. Even with Li Zhong's speed, he couldn't save Chu Yuan in time. With a cracking sound, Jiang Chen's palm slammed heavily on the defenseless Chu Yuan's qi si. Barf! Chu Yuan spurted out a mouthful of blood. Then, his qi si exploded, dissipating all the energy in an instant. Feeling his current condition, Chu Yuan was dumbfounded. His face was ashen and full of despair. The fact that he could cultivate to the half-step divine immortal realm was enough to show that he was talented and had a bright future ahead of him. But now, everything was over. Chu Yuan, a genius at the top of the pyramid, had turned into a cripple all of a sudden. From then on, he would never be able to cultivate again. Such a blow wasn't something that anyone could bear. Even if he survived, he would become a walking corpse. No, Chu Yuan let out a roar of despair. He felt that his life had suddenly become gloomy, and he had nothing left to live for. He hated Jiang Chen to the extreme, but there was nothing he could do because he knew that he would never have the chance to take revenge. At the same time, Chu Yuan's heart was filled with incomparable regret. That's right. He regretted provoking Jiang Chen for no reason. If he didn't provoke Jiang Chen, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Both of them would mind their own business and he, Chu Yuan, would still be the little emperor of this place. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Jiang Chen, you. Li Zhong's facial expression changed drastically. He didn't expect Jiang Chen to be so decisive and merciless. Jiang Chen turned around and looked at Li Zhong fearlessly. He said indifferently, Great Elder, I've already given you enough face by not killing him. Do you think that your face can guarantee his safety? This is the life and death arena. Aren't you afraid of breaking the rules by rushing to stop me? Also, you want to save Chu Yuan, which means that you're going against me, Jiang Chen. Chu Yuan is not to be trifled with, but do you think that I, Jiang Chen, am to be trifled with? Chu Yuan has a backer, but so do I, Jiang Chen. Great Elder, I advise you to stay out of this matter. Jiang Chen's words were incomparably cold, without the slightest politeness or respect for the Great Elder. Just now, Li Zhong had tried to stop Jiang Chen from dealing with Chu Yuan. No matter what the reason was, Jiang Chen was disgusted by his action. If it wasn't for the Great Elder's help, Jiang Chen would have been even more ruthless. Hissed, the Great Elder was shocked. The indifference in Jiang Chen's eyes and the qi of a superior had affected his soul a little. The Great Elder sighed and didn't speak anymore, because what Jiang Chen said was right. Chu Yuan was not to be trifled with, and Jiang Chen was even more so. It was better not to provoke a monstrous genius who could kill a half-step divine immortal. Plus, Tianji Zi, who was behind Jiang Chen, wasn't someone to be trifled with. At this point, Chu Yuan had been crippled. Although he didn't manage to save him, At least he had done something to save him. If Yang Shu were to blame him, it would be Jiang Chen and Tianji Zi's fault, and it had nothing to do with him. The battle between the true disciples had always been a headache. It was better not to get involved if possible. Ruthless. This is too brutal. The sky of our Tianyun pavilion is going to change. With such a monstrous genius, I guess those geniuses are going to be under a lot of pressure. The little emperor of inner sect, Chu Yuan, has been crippled just like that. Now, I have nothing but admiration for Jiang Chen. I'm afraid that only Jiang Chen can do such a thing in the entire Tianyun pavilion. Chu Yuan has been crippled for the rest of his life. But Yang Shu will certainly not let this matter go. Yang Shu will definitely hold Jiang Chen responsible for this. As a dignified golden immortal elder of the sect, his true disciple was killed just like that. This is undoubtedly a slap to his face. But Jiang Chen has the support of Elder Tianji Zi. So he doesn't have to be afraid. Plus, it was Chu Yuan who started the fight with Jiang Chen. Plus, both of them are on the life and death stage, not an ordinary stage. Jiang Chen has the right to do this. Even if this matter is brought to the law enforcement hall, he has the support of Tianji Zi. Plus, Jiang Chen's performance is incomparably dazzling. He can be said to be the #1 genius of Skycloud Pavilion. Many people were discussing about the fact that Jiang Chen had crippled Chu Yuan on the life and death stage. This itself was a major event. It was imaginable that the next development of the situation would not be simple. At this time, a strong pressure rushed out from the inner part of the sect. An elder in a gray robe appeared in the sky. This elder seemed to be in his 50s and was slightly fat. But the aura that he exuded could make people's soul tremble. This old man was none other than Yang Shu, a well-known figure in Skycloud Pavilion. It seemed that he had already learned about the incident here. Now that his true disciple had been crippled, there was no reason for him not to show up. That's right. The appearance of Yang Shu made the atmosphere extremely tense. Everyone didn't even dare to breathe. Great Elder Li Zhong lowered his head and didn't speak. Everyone knew that Yang Shu must be in a state of anger at this moment. Master. Seeing Yang Shu, Chu Yuan, who was lying on the ground, burst into tears on the spot. Unfortunately, he was completely crippled and didn't even have the strength to stand. Trash. Yang Shu glanced at Chu Yuan casually, then turned to look at Jiang Chen. His eyes were like cold blades that wanted to tear Jiang Chen apart. Chapter 1191. As Yang Shu's eyes fell on Jiang Chen, the atmosphere turned cold instantly. Everyone could feel Yang Shu's anger and strong killing intent. Perhaps in Yang Shu's eyes, Chu Yuan's life wasn't as important as his own face, but the fact that Jiang Chen had crippled Chu Yuan was equivalent to slapping his own face. It's over. I can already feel Elder Yang Shu's killing intent. Do you think Elder Yang Shu will kill Jiang Chen directly? If he kills Jiang Chen, I'm afraid that Jiang Chen's death will be in vain. It's hard to say. Even the sect master won't make things difficult for a golden immortal elder to kill an inner sect disciple. It seems like Jiang Chen can only pray for his own good luck. What he did today was really audacious. He even dared to kill Chu Yuan. Many of them whispered to each other, feeling that the current Jiang Chen was extremely dangerous. After all, the person he offended wasn't an ordinary person, but a golden immortal elder. Yang Shu was a late golden immortal expert, a first-class existence in the entire Tianyun pavilion. Even the sect master, Tian Muyun, had to give him face. Jiang Chen met Yang Shu's eyes with a faint smile at the corner of his mouth, showing no sign of fear. It was true that Yang Shu wanted to kill him, but Tianji Zi would never agree to it. One should know that Jiang Chen had defeated Chu Yuan in the life and death stage, which had earned Tianji Zi a lot of face. Plus, Jiang Chen's combat strength was very powerful. Tianji Zi would definitely treat such a genius like a treasure. How could he allow Yang Shu to kill him? Since Yang Shu had already appeared, it meant that Tianji Zi wouldn't be far away. Jiang Chen, how dare you hurt my disciple? You're just a little inner sect disciple and yet you dare to be so audacious. You don't put the elders in your eyes and you have no respect for your elders. Today, I'll teach you a good lesson. I'll personally destroy your cultivation base and make you the same as Chu Yuan. Yang Shu's tone was cold. The moment he finished speaking, he was ready to attack. This was the power of a mighty golden immortal expert. He had a high status and could ignore the rules and attack directly. Logically speaking, this was a life-and-death battle between Jiang Chen and Chu Yuan. Even if Chu Yuan died, he only had himself to blame. Jiang Chen didn't need to bear any consequences or receive any punishment. But now that Yang Shu wanted to punish Jiang Chen, no one dared to stop him. You want to cripple my disciple? Let's see who dares. Just as Yang Shu's voice faded, another powerful qi came out from the center of Tianyun Pavilion. Then, an immortal-like figure flew out. He didn't stay in the sky, but directly appeared on the platform, standing side by side with Jiang Chen. This person was none other than Tianji Zia. Tianji Zi looked at Chu Yuan, who was lying on the ground, expressionlessly. Then, he looked at Jiang Chen. Not only did he not blame Jiang Chen, he even showed some appreciation. Kid, you did a good job. You're worthy of being my disciple. Tianji Zi patted Jiang Chen's shoulder. The meaning of his words was quite obvious. Today, Jiang Chen's performance had won him a lot of face. There was no need to mention how happy he was in his heart. Yang Shu, you've got some guts. How dare you cripple my disciple? Since when did you have the right to punish my disciple? Tianji Zi looked at Yang Shu and said rudely. As soon as these two big shots appeared, the scene became even quieter. Such a scene was similar to what many people had expected. The battle between Jiang Chen and Chu Yuan would escalate to a battle between the higher-ups sooner or later. Chu Yuan had been crippled, and Yang Shu wanted to kill Jiang Chen. Naturally, Tianji Zi had to protect his disciple. Humph! Tianji Zi, don't talk like that. Your disciple crippled my disciple. Shouldn't he be punished? Yang Shu snorted coldly. Judging from his appearance, he didn't intend to let Jiang Chen go so easily. Haha, Yang Shu, look carefully. This is the life-and-death fighting platform. Your disciple is not strong enough. Now, he's lying here alive. Jiang Chen has shown mercy. You should thank Jiang Chen for sparing your disciple's life. Tianji Zi laughed loudly. This was a typical ruthless slap in the face. What if I have to do it? Tianji Zi, could it be that you think you can stop me? Yang Shu's eyes turned cold. It seemed like Tianji Zi was going to use force, but judging from their cultivation base, Tianji Zi was only at the peak of intermediate Golden Immortal Realm while Yang Shu was a late Golden Immortal Realm expert. If they really fought, Tianji Zi wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand. Then you can try. Today, I want to see who has the ability to hurt my disciple in front of me. Tianji Zi's qi fluctuated, showing no sign of fear. Jiang Chen nodded secretly. Tianji Zi's character suited his taste the most. It seemed like he had made the right choice to acknowledge Tianji Zi as his master. I have to do it. Yang Shu seemed to be a hot-tempered person. Normally, he didn't get along well with Tianji Zi. Today, he was humiliated by Jiang Chen. He was infuriated. All of a sudden, he reached out a big hand and grabbed at Jiang Chen. Seeing this, Tianji Zi also made a move. He was like a banished immortal. Almost at the same time as Yang Shu made his move, he also pointed out with his finger. A golden light was pointed out by him, and before Yang Shu's palm could fully condense, it was destroyed. Whoosh! Subsequently, Tianji Zi flew directly to the sky and shouted at Yang Shu. Yang Shu, you dare to attack my disciple? That means you don't put me in your eyes. Since you want to fight, then let's fight. Tianji Zi was incomparably strong. Even though he was an intermediate golden immortal, he still didn't show any fear in the face of Yang Shu. Let's fight then. Tianji Zi, I want to see to what extent have you cultivated the art of divination. Yang Shu's qi was like a rainbow. He directly launched an attack at Tianji Zi. The two great golden immortal experts fought in the sky above the martial arts arena. The winner couldn't be determined. Many people's attention was drawn to the battlefield between the two. It wasn't easy to watch a battle between two golden immortal experts. Jiang Chen's attention was even more focused. Originally, he thought that Tianji Zi was no match for Yang Shu, but now it seemed that he was wrong. Master's art of divination is really amazing. He can actually predict the opponent's moves. Yang Shu's cultivation is one level higher than Master's, but Master's art of divination can calculate the trajectory of Yang Shu's moves. In other words, the moment Yang Shu made his move, Master had already calculated the rules of his attack and then dealt with it decisively. When Yang Shu's attack was halfway through, Master had already collided with him. In this way, Yang Shu's combat strength could not be fully exerted. Jiang Chen was incomparably shocked. It seemed like the art of divination was much scarier than what he had imagined. Not only could it predict good or bad fortune, but it could also provide a huge advantage in a battle. It was truly shocking. Chapter 1192. Hong Long. The two golden immortal experts, Tianji Zi and Yang Shu, fought fiercely in the sky above Tianyun Pavilion. Powerful energy waves spread out and immediately alarmed the entire Tianyun Pavilion. Many core disciples, elders of the enforcement hall and some high and mighty golden immortal elders had also appeared. One should know that it was extremely rare for golden immortal elders to fight in the sect. It's Tianji Zi and Yang Shu. Why are they fighting all of a sudden? You guys still don't know that Tianji Zi's new true disciple has crippled Yang Shu's true disciple, Chu Yuan, on the life and death stage. Naturally, Yang Shu can't swallow this. How audacious! But since it's a life and death stage, Yang Shu has no other choice. Now, it's just a matter of face. For a time, the news of Jiang Chen crippling Chu Yuan spread at the fastest speed. At the same time, everyone knew that Jiang Chen was only a half-step heaven immortal expert. Such a genius who could defeat a half-step divine immortal was extremely rare even in the entire Tianyun Pavilion. Even in the entire one-line sky, or even the entire ethereal immortal domain, he was considered a first-class talent. No wonder. This Jiang Chen is truly an evildoer. Otherwise, given Tianji Zi's stubborn temper, why would he suddenly accept a disciple and even fight with Yang Shu for this disciple? Jiang Chen is indeed a genius, but his way of doing things is a little too arrogant. He crippled an inner circle true disciple on his first day in the inner circle. Such an arrogant attitude needs to be suppressed. That's right. Many people thought that Jiang Chen was too arrogant. Even if he was a genius, his cultivation base wasn't high. In Tianyun Pavilion, where the competition was extremely fierce, Jiang Chen should more or less restrain himself. However, not only did he not restrain himself, but he also crippled a true disciple and provoked the two great elders to fight. This was the first time such a thing had happened in the entire Tianyun Pavilion. Hong Long. Tianji Zi was also angered by Yang Shu's attacks. The shock waves from his battle with Yang Shu became more and more intense. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. This seemingly evenly matched duel was different in the eyes of outsiders. After all, the cultivation of both sides were not on the same level. People couldn't help but marvel at the terror of Tianji Zi's divination technique. His ability to foresee the future was really shocking. In contrast, Yang Shu seemed very sullen. Every time he made a move, his opponent could predict it. In such a situation, anyone would be sullen to death. They couldn't display their abilities at all. Elder Destiny's divination skill truly deserves its reputation. At first, I thought that this kind of divination skill could only be used to predict good or bad luck. I didn't think that it could also be used in battles. That's right. It's really amazing. Although Elder Destiny is only an intermediate golden immortal expert, his status in Tianyun Pavilion isn't any weaker than a late golden immortal expert like Yang Shu. If Elder Destiny advances to the late golden immortal realm, I'm afraid that Elder Yang Shu won't be a match for him. In the entire Tianyun Pavilion, only Sect Master and Taoist Yu Feng can suppress him. This is a very special skill. Ordinary people can't learn it even if they want to. Tianji Zi's power was unavoidably amazing. When his ability to foresee the future was perfectly used in battle, the advantage was too obvious. Jiang Chen's eyes were fixed on Tianji Zi. Every time Tianji Zi made a move, there would be a kind of illusory divination qi, which fascinated people. Currently, Jiang Chen had been completely attracted by this magical divination technique. Stop, both of you. Just at this time, a voice was heard. A yellow-robed, skinny old man appeared in the sky. His cultivation base was still very strong, but judging from his qi, he wasn't any weaker than Tianji Zi and Yang Shu. In fact, he was even slightly stronger. It's the Hall Master of Law Enforcement Hall, Yuan Ting. He's the most distinguished figure in Tianyun Pavilion, second only to Sect Master and Taoist Yu Feng. I never thought that he would appear here. I already said that this storm wouldn't be simple. It is very likely to alarm the higher-ups. Now, it seems like I'm right. Tianjizi and Yang Shu are at loggerheads. In the entire Tianyun pavilion, only the law enforcement hall dares to stop them. That's right. Even in the law enforcement hall, there aren't many who have the ability to stop them. Yuan Ting can. Yuan Ting's appearance meant that the law enforcement hall was going to intervene. In Tianyun pavilion, the law enforcement hall was high and mighty. Normally, they would rarely appear. However, once the law enforcement hall wanted to handle something, it would definitely not be a small matter. Today, the matter between Chu Yuan and Jiang Chen had become very big. If the law enforcement hall didn't step in, there would be no way to solve it. Seeing Yuan Ting's appearance, Tianjizi and Yang Shu stopped what they were doing. They had to give Yuan Ting face. Additionally, the two of them knew very well that even if they continued to fight, there would be no result. In the end, there would still be no winner. Elder Yuan, I believe you have heard about what happened today. I, Yang Shu, am also a respected figure in Tianyun Pavilion. Today, I have to save my face. As long as you cripple Jiang Chen, I will not pursue this matter any further. Yang Shu said. His attitude was still very unyielding. What a joke. Where do you think I, Tianjizi, am? Don't you understand the meaning of the life and death duel? Once you are on the life and death duel, life and death are determined by fate. Chu Yuan was defeated by Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen only crippled him and spared his life. It is already very kind of him. If Jiang Chen is defeated and killed by Chu Yuan today, I will not say a word. I can only say that Jiang Chen is not good enough. Yang Shu, aren't you even more humiliating by pestering me endlessly? Tianjizi gave tit for tat. Currently, Jiang Chen was a treasure in his eyes. Yang Shu wanted to cripple his disciple, which was simply wishful thinking. Yuan Ting frowned. Looking at Jiang Chen below and Chu Yuan, who was lying motionless on the fighting platform, he was also very surprised. Today's matter was a bit tricky even for an elder of the law enforcement hall to deal with. He had to give face to Yang Shu. If Jiang Chen was just an ordinary disciple, he could directly deal with him. However, Jiang Chen was also a true disciple. He was also very clear about Tianjizi's stubborn temper. If they really caused trouble, he, the hall master of the law enforcement hall, would not have enough face to deal with it. However, since he had come forward, he had to solve it. He could not let the matter go on. Otherwise, the existence of the law enforcement hall would be meaningless. If the sect leader blamed him, he would also be embarrassed. This matter should not go on. Elder Yang Shu, Elder Tianjizi, bring your disciples to the law enforcement hall. The law enforcement hall is a reasonable place. I want to know the ins and outs of the matter. Yuan Ting said to Tianjizi and Yang Shu. Chapter 1193. After Yuan Ting finished speaking, he disappeared directly. At the same time, some elders of the law enforcement hall also disappeared. It seemed that they had all returned to the law enforcement hall. Everyone knew that the following matters would be transferred to the law enforcement hall. Humph! Yang Shu snorted coldly. He grabbed Chu Yuan with his big hand and a suction force fell on Chu Yuan's body, pulling him up. Master, save me! Chu Yuan cried and his face was full of despair. Sigh. Yang Shu sighed and then shook his head. If it was just an ordinary injury, no matter how serious it was, Yang Shu could find a way to save him. Unfortunately, Chu Yuan's Sea of Qi had been destroyed and it was impossible for him to recover. No matter how capable Yang Shu was, it would be useless. He could turn a fool into a genius, but he could not turn a cripple into a normal person. The only thing I can do is to help you seek justice and make Jiang Chen pay the price. Yang Shu said and then no longer looked at Chu Yuan. Chu Yuan closed his eyes in pain and tears of regret flowed down from the corner of his eyes. Revenge? Was it really that important? For Chu Yuan, it was no longer important whether he could make Jiang Chen pay a heavy price or not. Even if he killed Jiang Chen, he would not be able to restore his former glory. Jiang Chen leaped up and spread his wings on his back, looking extremely magical. He came to Tianjizi's side and bowed slightly to him. Master. Good, very good. I have just accepted you as my disciple and you have already given me face. You don't need to say more about this matter. I know the cause and effect very well. Chu Yuan only has himself to blame. With me, Tianjizi, even if you go to the law enforcement hall, Yang Shu will not be able to touch a hair of yours, Tianji said in an incomparably admiring tone. The more he looked at Jiang Chen, the more he liked him. Strong, overbearing and outstanding talent, it was really in line with his taste. It was impossible not to like such a disciple. Let's go to the law enforcement hall together. I want to see how old Yuan will deal with it. After Tianji finished speaking, he flew towards the law enforcement hall with Jiang Chen. The martial arts practice field, which was originally crowded with people, instantly became noisy because of the departure of Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen is really famous this time. There is no one in Tianyun Pavilion who doesn't know him. He killed Chu Yuan on his first day as an inner disciple. He is really awesome. I don't know how the law enforcement hall will deal with him. Yang Shu will definitely not let it go. Even if Jiang Chen is in the right, I'm afraid he won't be able to get away with it. After all, this involves Elder Yang Shu's reputation. The enforcement hall isn't a good place. No one in the entire sect likes to go to the enforcement hall. Once they are there, they will definitely cause some trouble. I heard that Elder Yuan and Elder Yang Shu have a pretty good relationship. On the other hand, Elder Tianji has a stubborn temper and is extremely arrogant. He doesn't even get along with many golden immortal elders. I'm afraid that he won't be able to gain any advantage in the enforcement hall. Many people were talking about it. In Tianyun Pavilion, from the powerful elders to the ordinary disciples, the law enforcement hall was the most serious existence in their eyes. In front of such a tiger-like existence, no one was willing to deal with the law enforcement hall. Even if an ordinary disciple made a mistake, if they were brought to the law enforcement hall, they would be skinned alive even if they didn't die. The law enforcement hall was located in the center of Tianyun Pavilion. It was an incomparably magnificent hall. From the outside, it gave people a sense of solemnity and solemnity. It was a very important place in Tianyun Pavilion. It represented the highest level of law enforcement in Tianyun Pavilion. In the entire Tianyun Pavilion, no one dared to challenge the authority of the law enforcement hall. Except for Sect Master Tian Muyun and Taoist Yu Feng, the law enforcement hall represented the highest status in Tianyun Pavilion. At this moment, in the hall of the law enforcement hall, a group of elders of the law enforcement hall were already present. Yang Shu was also standing there, and Chu Yuan was standing beside him. Chu Yuan was already able to stand, but his condition was extremely poor. His body was swaying, as if he would fall to the ground at any time. His face was as pale as blood, making him look like a walking corpse. Tianji also walked in with Jiang Chen. Tianji walked like a tiger. Even though he had arrived at the law enforcement hall, he didn't show the slightest bit of fear. Jiang Chen was the same. The corner of his mouth was brimming with a smile. A mere law enforcement hall was far from enough to make him afraid. In addition to these high-level elders, Jiang Chen also saw 3 other people. They were Gao Yang and the other 2 who went to the Iron Dummy Array in the wee hours of the morning. These 3 guys were kneeling on the ground, trembling all over. Their arms were chopped off and they were already seriously injured. Now that they were in a place like the law enforcement hall, they were already scared out of their wits, especially Gao Yang, whose arms were chopped off. He should have been recuperating, but now he was kneeling here. In Gao Yang's heart, he felt that his luck was really bad. He originally thought that Chu Yuan could kill Jiang Chen to avenge him, but who would have thought that Jiang Chen was so terrifying? Not only was Chu Yuan not a match for him, but he was also crippled by Jiang Chen. Now that Chu Yuan was in such a state, how could the 3 of them, who were the Fuse, have a good ending in the law enforcement hall? The 3 of them were filled with regret in their hearts. They were cursing themselves for finding trouble with Jiang Chen for no good reason. They were simply asking for trouble. Jiang Chen's face was filled with regret. Jiang Chen, you've arrived at the law enforcement hall. Why don't you kneel down? An elder of the law enforcement hall shouted at Jiang Chen coldly. Why should I kneel down when I'm in the right? I don't even know why you asked me to come to the law enforcement hall. I didn't make any mistakes. Jiang Chen casually glanced at the elder and said in an indifferent tone. Arrogant. Looking at Jiang Chen's behavior, many elders of the law enforcement hall were infuriated. How dare someone challenge the dignity of the law enforcement hall? This was outrageous. All along, any disciple who came to the law enforcement hall, even those unruly core disciples, would have to kneel down obediently in front of them, not even daring to breathe loudly. But Jiang Chen actually dared to talk back to them, the elders of the law enforcement hall. They had never seen such an arrogant and presumptuous disciple. Jiang Chen, you have killed your fellow disciple. This is a serious crime. The elder glared at Jiang Chen and continued. He was a mighty early golden immortal expert. Being disobeyed by a half-step heaven immortal meant that his dignity had been violated. How could he stand it? Are you blind? Or do you not know the meaning of the life and death stage? Besides, I was challenged by Chu Yuan. Could it be that I'm the one who is killed in the life and death stage and I'm not allowed to kill? Besides, Chu Yuan is still standing here unscathed. I have already given him a lot of face. Chapter 1194. Boom. As soon as Jiang Chen's words came out, countless flames of anger began to float in the main hall. Many elders of law enforcement hall were angry. Not to mention whether Jiang Chen was in the right or not. His arrogance had already violated a taboo by not putting the elders in his eyes. Which of the elders present wasn't superior? If Jiang Chen wasn't the true disciple of Tianjizi and was just an ordinary inner disciple, he was simply courting death if he dared to talk to the elders in this way. Even if he didn't make any big mistake, he would still be slapped to death on the spot. What an arrogant disciple. Even if a person like you grows up in the future, he will still be a tumor of the sect. You have no respect for your elders and contradicted the elders of law enforcement hall. You must be severely punished. Even if your cultivation is abolished, it would be a light punishment for you. Yang Shu Lunglung said. Now that they had arrived at the law enforcement hall, it was no longer up to Jiang Chen. He must regain his lost face and avenge Chu Yuan. In any case, he and Chu Yuan were master and disciple. Even if he couldn't restore Chu Yuan to his original state, he still had to do something for Chu Yuan. Bullshit. How can anyone bully the disciple of Tianjizi? Jiang Chen is right. This matter isn't his fault. Don't tell me you don't care about the face of law enforcement hall? Tianjizi didn't care about these things. The pressure of the law enforcement hall was useless to him. Jiang Chen's character was very much to his liking. He liked Jiang Chen very much. He felt that a successful person should be so awesome. Ouyang, he was exactly like this in the past, unrestrained and unrestrained. No one in the entire one-line sky could make Ouyang he give in to them. Alright, no need to argue anymore. I will make a fair decision on this matter. I won't easily wrong a disciple. Yuan Ting waved his hand. The main hall suddenly quieted down, but the smell of gunpowder was still strong. I wonder what law enforcement elder has to say? This is a life and death battle. It's all about your own ability. Jiang Chen looked at Yuan Ting without the slightest fear. Looking at this calm and composed young man, many of the elders couldn't help but sigh and feel shocked. No matter whether they liked Jiang Chen or not, they had to admit that this young man wasn't ordinary. Putting aside his formidable combat strength, his calm and composed temperament was something that most of the young men couldn't compare with. It's not your fault that you went to the life and death stage, but there must be a reason why you went to the life and death stage even though you have no enmity with Chu Yuan. I'm going to find out the reason now. Jiang Chen, Gao Yang and the other two were injured by you, right? As fellow disciples of the same sect, you crippled their arms and acted so savagely. That in itself is a great taboo. Said Yuan Ting as he looked at Gao Yang and the other two. Hearing this, Jiang Chen snorted in his heart. He had already guessed that this would happen when he saw Gao Yang and the other two. Yuan Ting had a good relationship with Yang Shu, so he could also see that the law enforcement hall would definitely make things difficult for him. Gao Yang and the other two were the fuse of this matter. But it was just the beginning. That's right. They wanted to kill me, but I only crippled their arms and spared their lives. How can this be called cruel? If they weren't disciples of Skycloud Pavilion, I wouldn't feel any pity for them. They would have died on the spot instead of kneeling here. Besides, I was repairing the iron dummy array, but Chu Yuan sent the three of them to make trouble. It's only right for me to punish them. If I wasn't a match for Gao Yang and the others, I'm afraid that the consequences wouldn't be as simple as me getting injured or killed. The iron dummy array with the unique symbol of Skycloud Pavilion would also be beyond repair. Wouldn't that be a great sin and loss for me? What Jiang Chen said was his own reasoning. Sure enough, Gao Yang and the other two felt like coughing up blood. That's right, they felt like coughing up blood. They felt extremely aggrieved. Not only did they lose an arm, they also had to shoulder all the responsibilities. They couldn't even voice out the bitterness that they had to suffer in silence. We can't just listen to your one-sided statement. Gao Yang, Chu Yuan, come on. Yuan Ting looked at Chu Yuan and Gao Yang. Reporting to law enforcement elder, I just sent Gao Yang and the other two to see how the iron dummy array is being repaired. After all, the iron dummy array is the painstaking effort of sect leader Ouyang. If there were any problems with it, it would be a loss to Tianyun Pavilion. I'm just concerned about it, Chu Yuan said. He was not in the mood to talk here. He was so disheartened that he wanted to kill himself. However, in order to take revenge on Jiang Chen, he had to say it. Yes. Elder. Senior brother Chu asked us to check on the iron dummy array. Unexpectedly, when we arrived at the main hall, we found that Jiang Chen was asking a dog to repair the iron dummy array. This is a blasphemy and insult to the iron dummy array and sect leader Ouyang. Naturally, we had to stop him. However, we didn't expect that Jiang Chen would fly into a rage and cut off our arms. Gao Yang said almost in tears. Jiang Chen, you're really audacious. You destroyed the iron dummy array and asked a beast to repair it. This is a blasphemy to Master Ouyang. This alone is enough to punish you. Jiang Chen said coldly. Yang Shu shouted at Jiang Chen. Hearing the word beast, Jiang Chen's eyes suddenly turned cold and a faint killing intent overflowed from his body. He looked at Yang Shu coldly and said, Old man, you'd better watch your mouth. De Huang is my brother. Bastard, what did you say? Yang Shu was furious. A little inner disciple dared to call him old man. How could this be? He had been in Tianyun Pavilion for so many years and it was the first time that someone dared to be so disrespectful to him. If it weren't for Tianjizi, he would have killed Jiang Chen 100 times with this sentence. I said that your mouth is old and stinky. Jiang Chen didn't have the slightest fear. When someone wanted to target him, he would never be polite to the other party, even if the other party had a higher status than him. In front of Jiang Chen, Yang Shu's identity was useless. Jiang Chen didn't put a late golden immortal expert in his eyes. If they really fell out with each other, Yang Shu wouldn't be able to kill him with the help of the Zulong Tower. Moreover, Jiang Chen cultivated the dragon transformation skill, which gave him a unique advantage. Whether it was cultivation base or combat strength, it was only a matter of time before he surpassed Yang Shu. Haha, good, very good. He really is an arrogant disciple. Elder Yuan, did you see that? Such an arrogant and conceited junior has no respect for his elders, and even more so for the sect's rules. What's the point of keeping such a person? Yang Shu laughed and said to Yuan Ting, Jiang Chen, your performance is really disappointing. There has never been such an arrogant disciple like you in Tianyun Pavilion. Chapter 1195. Yuan Ting's pressure was very strong. The pressure of a peak late golden immortal expert wasn't something an ordinary expert could bear. Of course, Jiang Chen wasn't an ordinary expert. With his powerful soul power and the help of the Zulong Tower, Yuan Ting's pressure was like a child's play to him. Elder Yuan, you don't have to scare me. You don't need to know what method I used to repair the iron dummy array. The array has already been repaired and it's even more perfect than before. I believe you all have already checked the condition of the array. Jiang Chen said without the slightest fear. Upon hearing this, most of the elders couldn't help but nod in agreement. They had indeed checked the condition of the iron dummy array. Even they couldn't help but marvel at the miraculous method used to repair the array. They had to admit that it was perfect. Although they had lost 7 puppets, the iron dummy array that was rebuilt using 21 puppets was much more powerful and effective than before. If the iron dummy array was used as an example, Jiang Chen should be rewarded by the sect. Putting the matter of the iron dummy array aside, it's a fact that you have injured Gao Yang and the other two. I won't pursue the matter of your life and death battle with Chu Yuan any longer, but you have been so rude in the law enforcement hall today. This is the first time I've seen this in the Tianyun Pavilion. With these 2 actions, I have to punish you to defend the dignity of the law enforcement hall. Yuan Ting said with a deadpan expression. Since these words came out of his mouth, the punishment became a matter of course. Elder Yuan, I think it's better to leave the punishment to me. It's reasonable to kill him in such a situation, but considering that he is a true disciple, I can spare his life and let him be a cripple like Chu Yuan. That's already good enough. Yang Shu said with a sneer. Bullshit. Tianjizi was infuriated. Yuan Ting, Yang Shu, do you really think that I, Tianjizi, am just air? Tianjizi, am not someone who can be punished just because I want to. Today with me, Tianjizi, here, I want to see who dares to touch a single hair on Jiang Chen's head. Tianjizi had already figured out that Yuan Ting and Yang Shu had joined hands to find a crime for Jiang Chen. In addition, it was a fact that Jiang Chen had injured and maimed Gao Yang and the other two. Moreover, he had behaved so arrogantly in the law enforcement hall today. However, Tianjizi wasn't a pushover. Since he couldn't reason with them, then he wouldn't bother. He, Tianjizi, had never been afraid. Tianjizi, you better not go too far. This is the law enforcement hall, not a place for you to behave atrociously. Yang Shu bellowed. As a matter of fact, Tianjizi was the most troublesome person to deal with. Sometimes, even Tian Muyun couldn't do anything to this doyen of Tianyun Pavilion. Even Daoist Yufeng had to be polite to him. If he was really provoked, this bastard wouldn't listen to anyone. Plus, Tianjizi was able to predict the future. This kind of divination technique would be helpful to the future of Tianyun Pavilion. Therefore, although Tianjizi was only at the peak of intermediate golden immortal realm, he had a pivotal position. Plus, his combat strength wasn't any weaker than a late golden immortal expert. This could be seen from the fact that he was equally matched with Yang Shu. So what? Since you are being unreasonable, don't blame me for being impolite. If you provoke me, I will tear down this law enforcement hall for you. Tianjizi was completely enraged. Even Tianjizi couldn't help but secretly give his master a thumbs up. Sure enough, Tianjizi wasn't just bragging. Humph! Tianjizi, in Tianyun Pavilion, no one has ever dared to come to the law enforcement hall to behave atrociously. This place represents the highest authority of Tianyun Pavilion. You are provoking me. I have already given you a lot of face. If you continue to pester me endlessly, I don't mind punishing both of you together. If a fight really breaks out, even if you have the divination art, you won't be able to walk out of this law enforcement hall today. Yuan Ting was infuriated. As the highest authority of the law enforcement hall, he had never been provoked like this before. For a moment, the entire hall was filled with the smell of gunpowder. It seemed like a war was about to break out at any time. At this time, an invisible wave of wind suddenly drifted in the hall, carrying a storm-like pressure that made people feel suffocated. Everyone saw the void above the hall tremble. Then, an extraordinarily handsome figure walked out of it. A half-step Immortal King Supreme Expert had already comprehended the spatial force, which allowed him to appear anywhere at any time. Young, promising, dignified and elegant. When these adjectives were put together, they could form a single word. Tian Muyun. That's right. This expert who suddenly appeared was Tian Muyun, the highest authority of Tianyun Pavilion, a half-step Immortal King Supreme Expert, a legendary figure in one-line sky. Tian Muyun was the sect master of Tianyun Pavilion. Normally, he wouldn't appear in such a place, but today's matter had attracted his attention. This was enough to show that this matter wasn't a small one. Sect master. When they saw Tian Muyun, everyone in the law enforcement hall, regardless of their status or cultivation base, stood up and saluted respectfully. Although they were much older than Tian Muyun and some elders had even watched him grow up, they didn't dare to show any neglect at this moment. This showed that although Tian Muyun was young, his prestige in Tianyun Pavilion was still very high. To put it bluntly, after 2 years of development in Tianyun Pavilion, Tian Muyun's prestige had already reached the level of Ouyang Heath. When Jiang Chen saw Tian Muyun, a trace of coldness and disgust could be seen in the depth of his eyes, but this trace of disgust was concealed very well. For an expert like Tian Muyun, any unusual expression on one's face would be sensed by him. Tian Muyun nodded casually. His body naturally carried a faint superior qi, making him look very tall. He didn't look at the others, not even at Yuan Ting and Yang Shu. His eyes fell directly on Jiang Chen. You are Jiang Chen? Tian Muyun asked in a flat tone, but everyone could feel that the way he looked at Jiang Chen was different. It was the way a genius looked at another genius. There was admiration, praise, jealousy and faint hostility in his eyes. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Jiang Chen. Disciple Jiang Chen pays respect to sect master. Naturally, Jiang Chen couldn't show any neglect. Immediately, he clasped his fists at Tian Muyun and saluted. Crippling Chu Yuan, a half-step divine immortal expert, with just a half-step heaven immortal cultivation base. Your talent is even higher than mine. Chapter 1196. However, in Jiang Chen's eyes, Tian Muyun's gaze was incomparably sharp. It was definitely not as simple as just praising him. There was a strong sense of jealousy in his eyes. Tian Muyun's gaze seemed to be able to see through him, or in other words, he wanted to see through everything about Jiang Chen. This was a terrifying opponent, but Jiang Chen wasn't an ordinary nobody. Tian Muyun was still far from being able to see through him. Thank you for your praise, sect master. Jiang Chen continued to speak in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Jiang Chen, I already know everything that has happened in the sect these days because of you. It's a good thing that there's a genius like you in Tianyun Pavilion, but since I'm here today, I have to take care of this matter. You've injured your fellow disciples and even crippled a true disciple. If I don't punish you, Elder Yang Shu won't be satisfied. I have to take care of the emotions of the elders of the sect. Besides, you've offended the elder of the law enforcement hall and disregarded the law. You'll also be punished. I'm going to punish you now. Are you willing to do so? Tian Muyun said with a smile. His tone was light, but there was an irrefutable aura in it. Sect master. Tianji's expression changed slightly, but before he could say anything, he was interrupted by Tian Muyun with a wave of his hand. Elder Tianji, I'm talking to Jiang Chen now. Please don't interrupt us. Tian Muyun casually glanced at Tianji before shifting his gaze back to Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen sneered coldly in his heart. Tian Muyun had already shown a trace of hostility towards him. This might seem abnormal, but it was within Jiang Chen's expectation. A figure like Tian Muyun would have an incomparably sharp sixth sense. Perhaps Tian Muyun could sense that Jiang Chen's existence would pose a certain threat to him, which was why he showed hostility instead of admiration. As a matter of fact, there was a difference between Tian Muyun and Ouyang He. Ouyang He belonged to the older generation. He hoped that a peerless genius would emerge in the sect so that the sect could flourish in the future, because his talent had basically reached the peak. Becoming a mighty immortal king was basically his limit. It was basically impossible for him to become a more powerful immortal emperor. But Tian Muyun was different. He was young and a genius. People like him had a common problem: being hostile to all geniuses who were more talented than him. It was something that couldn't be changed, especially when it came to monstrous geniuses like Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen had unknowingly overshadowed Tian Muyun's brilliance. Although Tian Muyun was already the sect master and had a supreme status, he shouldn't care about it, but deep in his heart, there was still an unchangeable idea and hostility towards Jiang Chen. However, Jiang Chen didn't care about Tian Muyun's hostility at all, because in his mind, Tian Muyun was already his enemy. They were destined to fight to the death in the future. If Tian Muyun really appreciated him and wholeheartedly nurtured him like how Tianji valued him, Jiang Chen would feel uncomfortable in his heart, because he would have to kill Tian Muyun in the future. If Tian Muyun treated him too well, Jiang Chen wouldn't have the heart to kill him. But now it was different. Tian Muyun was his enemy, and he had shown his hostility. Jiang Chen wouldn't even blink an eye when he killed Tian Muyun to avenge Ouyang He. I wonder how Sect Master is going to deal with me? Jiang Chen asked with great interest. Don't worry, I will treasure a peerless genius like you very much. After all, you represent the future of Tianyun Pavilion. Not only will I not hurt you, I won't punish you, but I will also give you a chance to train yourself. Tian Muyun said with a smile. Oh. Jiang Chen was surprised, but his intuition told him that this chance to train himself wouldn't be so easy to deal with. Jiang Chen, I will give you a chance to go to Nifa's abyss to train yourself. I think such a punishment is enough for Elder Yang Shu. If you can survive in a place like Nifa's abyss, your future achievements will surely surpass mine, said Tian Muyun. When he mentioned Nifa's abyss, a trace of teasing flashed in the depth of his eyes. No one else noticed this subtle expression, but it couldn't escape Jiang Chen's eyes. Hua! After Tian Muyun mentioned Nifa's abyss, the entire hall was in an uproar. Even Yang Shu didn't expect that Tian Muyun would give Jiang Chen such a heavy punishment. How was this a punishment? It was no different from killing Jiang Chen. Sect Master, you're sending Jiang Chen to his death. Isn't this punishment a little too heavy? Tianji couldn't take it anymore. His eyes were red. One could imagine how angry he was at this moment. It seemed that if the other party wasn't Tian Muyun, he would have already lost his temper. Hee, why is Elder Tianji so agitated? Sect Master Tian is doing this for Jiang Chen's sake. If a peerless genius like Jiang Chen can go to Nifa's abyss to train himself, he will surely achieve great things in the future. Yang Shu chuckled. He was in a good mood. In his opinion, sending Jiang Chen to Nifa's abyss was more satisfying than crippling Jiang Chen. Of course, Jiang Chen, you can choose not to agree. I won't force you. Tian Muyun looked at Jiang Chen with a look that said, I won't force you. Jiang Chen understood Tian Muyun's thoughts very well. He didn't know what kind of place the Nifa's abyss was, but judging from Tianji Zi and Yang Shu's reaction, it must be a place of extreme evil. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called Nifa's abyss. Jiang Chen knew that if he agreed, it would basically be impossible for him to walk out of Nifa's abyss in Tian Muyun's eyes. If he didn't agree, it would mean that he was weaker than Tian Muyun. What Tian Muyun wanted was to see him cower. That way, Tian Muyun would think that he was stronger and more outstanding than Jiang Chen. To put it bluntly, such a punishment was just to satisfy Tian Muyun's mentality of being a genius. Jiang Chen, you can't agree to it. Tianji Zi quickly said. Master, what kind of place is Nifa's abyss? Jiang Chen asked curiously. The Nifa's abyss is an independent spatial zone that connects to one line sky and a dozen other major domains. There are all kinds of ferocious creatures in there. Moreover, there are many evil sects and crooked sects in the immortal world. The entire spatial zone is filled with sin, blood, and slaughter. The weak are prey to the strong. There are no rules there. Even I can't guarantee that I'll come out unscathed. For a long time, only those who have committed serious crimes will be sent to the Nifa's abyss to fend for themselves. Everyone who enters the Nifa's abyss has a slim chance of survival. If you enter the Nifa's abyss, it's basically no different from throwing your life away. Chapter 1197. The Nifa's abyss was a notorious existence that represented evil, bloodshed, and slaughter. It was a place that would cause people's faces to turn pale at the mention of it. There were powerful primordial ominous demons in there. No one was willing to step into it. Even the most powerful genius in one-line sky wouldn't dare to enter the evil abyss. Tian Muyun's path of growth was dazzling and arrogant, but even he didn't dare to take half a step into the evil abyss. What a good Tian Muyun, playing this trick on me. Jiang Chen sneered in his heart. It seemed that Tian Muyun knew that Jiang Chen wouldn't dare to agree to it, but he still gave Jiang Chen such a difficult problem. His purpose was to see Jiang Chen's timid side and feel superior. Jiang Chen, it's a rare opportunity to enter the evil abyss. As long as you agree to it, I won't pursue the matter of you crippling Chu Yuan anymore. Yang Shu said with a smile. He wanted to see whether Jiang Chen would dare to agree to it or not. However, everyone present, including him, was certain that Jiang Chen wouldn't dare to agree to it. After all, entering the evil abyss was not something that anyone could do. It has nothing to do with you whether I go to the evil abyss or not. Chu Yuan only has himself to blame. Jiang Chen glanced at Yang Shu coldly, not giving him any face at all. Jiang Chen, you can refuse it. Tian Muyun continued. However, after listening to Tian Jizi's introduction of the evil abyss, Jiang Chen's interest was piqued. He, Jiang Chen, had experienced countless hardships and had been to all kinds of dangerous places. A man's life must always be full of challenges and passion. A path without passion would never be perfect. Jiang Chen loved excitement and passion. He wanted to give his life a label and create countless miracles. Jiang Chen's first purpose of coming to One Line Sky had been achieved. He had successfully entered the Tianyun Pavilion. Next, he would have to work hard on his second goal, which was to kill Tian Muyun. However, it was impossible to achieve it in a short period of time. He needed to improve his strength and cultivation base. Only by improving both would he be able to contend against Tian Muyun. If he wanted to quickly improve his cultivation, dangerous experiences were indispensable. Now that he had become an inner disciple and a true disciple, there were too few places in One Line Sky for him to train in. What he needed the most was a dangerous place like the Nifa's abyss. Slaughter, blood, and cruelty. All of these words attracted Jiang Chen and stimulated his blood. He liked this kind of training method. I promise. Just when everyone, including Tian Muyun, thought that Jiang Chen would refuse, Jiang Chen actually agreed. This situation stunned everyone present, including Tian Muyun himself. He didn't expect that Jiang Chen would really agree to it. When Tian Muyun proposed such a punishment, his purpose was to see the timid side of Jiang Chen. Is there something wrong with this kid's brain? He actually agreed to it. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. This Jiang Chen obviously doesn't know how terrifying the Nifa's abyss is. Entering the Nifa's abyss is no different from courting death. This guy is indeed the most arrogant person I have ever seen. He doesn't even put the Nifa's abyss in his eyes. He is destined to be a dead man once he enters the Nifa's abyss. Many people shook their heads and sighed. No one had expected Jiang Chen to agree to enter the Nifa's abyss. No, Jiang Chen. You are courting death. You have no idea how terrifying the Nifa's abyss is. Tian Jizi tried to stop him. As long as Jiang Chen changed his mind and refused to enter the Nifa's abyss, he still had a way to ensure that Jiang Chen would be unharmed. Master, I have already agreed to it. It's better if we don't go against the sect master's order. Jiang Chen smiled at Tian Jizi. You're crazy. Tian Jizi shook his head, feeling that this disciple of his was too crazy. No one had ever been able to remain so calm and collected when facing the Nifa's abyss. Jiang Chen was the first. Even as his master, Tian Jizi couldn't help but admire Jiang Chen for this. Jiang Chen, have you really agreed to it? You still have a chance to back out now. Tian Muyun said with a frown. Now that Jiang Chen had really agreed to it, it made him feel very unhappy. That's right. This disciple has agreed to go to the Nifa's abyss to train. However, I hope that sect master can give this disciple 3 days. After 3 days, this disciple will go to the Nifa's abyss on time. Jiang Chen said in an incomparably solemn tone. There wasn't the slightest hint of a joke in his words. The Nifa's abyss couldn't scare him at all. No one would have guessed that the current Jiang Chen had already developed a strong interest in the Nifa's abyss. All right, I'll give you 3 days. 3 days later, I'll personally open the passage to the Nifa's abyss for you. As soon as Tian Muyun finished speaking, he disappeared with a sway of his body. After Tian Muyun left, the atmosphere in the main hall was basically gone. Since he had already agreed to go to the Nifa's abyss, there was no need for Yuan Ting and Yang Shu to say anything more. This was the result they wanted. Jiang Chen, you sigh. Tian Jizi shook his head and sighed. He didn't know whether to scold or say anything to Jiang Chen. He had already agreed to it and it had become a fact. He only hoped that Jiang Chen could really come out of the Nifa's abyss alive, although he knew that this hope was extremely slim. But on the other hand, Tian Jizi was incomparably proud. His disciple had the guts to enter the Nifa's abyss and faced it so boldly. As his master, he was also very proud. At least, no one else could cultivate such a disciple, although he wasn't the one who cultivated Jiang Chen. Don't worry, master. I know what I'm doing. Let's leave this place and head to the Tianji Peak. After saying that, Jiang Chen turned and walked out of the law enforcement hall. Since he was going to the Nifa's abyss, learning the art of divination was his top priority. The reason why he refused the 3 days was because he wanted to learn the art of divination. He clearly saw the battle between Tian Jizi and Yang Shu today. If he could learn the art of divination, it would definitely come in handy in the Nifa's abyss. Jiang Chen and Tian Jizi left. The elders of the law enforcement hall couldn't help but sigh as they looked at their backs. Some of them sighed in their hearts. It was a pity that a genius like Jiang Chen had fallen. From a certain point of view, it was a great loss to Tianyun Pavilion. Elder Yang Shu, you've achieved your goal. Jiang Chen will definitely die in the Nifa's abyss. Yuan Ting said. Yang Shu patted Chu Yuan's shoulder. This is all I can do for you. Chapter 1198. Compared to the independent peaks where the other golden immortal elders resided, the heavenly mystery peak was extremely simple and crude. However, it was incomparably clean and elegant. The top of the peak was filled with mist, making it look like a real paradise. 2 figures descended on the heavenly mystery peak at the same time. Tianji Zi couldn't hold it in any longer. He turned to Jiang Chen and yelled, "Bastard! You're still wet behind the ears, kid. How could you know how cruel and terrifying a place like Nifa's abyss is? How could you agree to it? You're courting death." Tianji Zi seemed rather agitated. His eyes were emitting blood-red radiance. Seeing Tianjizi's reaction, not only did Jiang Chen not get angry, he felt a burst of warmth in his heart. He could feel the concern that Tianjizi had for him. This was only his second meeting with Tianjizi. Although they were master and disciple, it was only in name. Back in the martial arena, Tianjizi didn't hesitate to fight Yang Shu in public for his sake. In the law enforcement hall, Tianjizi challenged the authority of the entire law enforcement hall. Now, Tianjizi was incomparably worried and concerned about Jiang Chen. These were true feelings. Jiang Chen could feel the concern that Tianjizi had for him. Master, don't be too agitated. Don't you know the art of divination? You can divine for me to see if this trip to Nifa's abyss will be dangerous or not. Jiang Chen shrugged and asked with a smile. Humph. Do you think I don't want to? Unfortunately, I don't know what's going on with you. I can't divine anything at all. It's as if your fate is beyond the heavenly mystery. Your fate is illusory. With my current cultivation, I can't divine anything about you. Tianjizi let out a cold snort. He had performed divination more than once about his disciple, only to find that Jiang Chen's fate was beyond the heavenly mystery. He couldn't divine anything about it at all. Otherwise, he would have performed divination for Jiang Chen no matter what. What? Jiang Chen almost cried out after hearing this. He had never thought that this would happen. However, Tianjizi definitely wouldn't lie to him. Since even the art of divination couldn't divine anything about him, it was clear that his fate was extremely special. Could it be related to the dragon transformation skill? Jiang Chen furrowed his brows. The only explanation for this was the dragon transformation skill. He had now completely condensed his dragon body, and the Zulong Tower was extremely mystical, surpassing everything. Moreover, he would never forget the ancestral dragon's shadow that once appeared in the depths of his soul, as well as the ancestral dragon's roar that seemed to come from the primordial age. Until now, the dragon transformation skill was still a mystery to Jiang Chen. This divine skill seemed to be broad and profound, and he would never be able to fully explore it. As for his future, even Jiang Chen himself could not determine what kind of close relationship existed between him and the ancestral dragon, and what kind of powerful and mysterious existence could surpass the heavenly secrets. That's right. You are indeed an anomaly. However, the great divination art is also broad and profound. It's just that my cultivation and comprehension of the great divination art are limited, so I can't divine anything about you. Tianjizi couldn't help but sigh. He was very attentive to this miraculous disciple of his. From the moment he decided to accept Jiang Chen as his disciple, Tianjizi had already made up his mind to properly nurture Jiang Chen. He wanted to make Jiang Chen his pride. Master, a man must live his life vigorously. Master, a man must live a vigorous life. My life will definitely be exciting. There will always be countless trials and tribulations obstructing the path of a successful person. What I need to do is to kick away these stumbling blocks one by one. Anyone who wants to rise to the top will face a pile of bones beneath their feet. I want to grow, and I absolutely cannot be a flower in a greenhouse. Although the Nifa's abyss is dangerous and terrifying, I want to be the most terrifying one there. I want to be the target of others' terror. I like that kind of life and death experience because it always brings me passion and heroism. Therefore, even if Sect Master Tian didn't mention the Nifa's abyss, once I knew of its existence, I would still head there without any hesitation. This is my own choice. Jiang Chen's aura fluctuated. Every word he uttered was sonorous and powerful. The hot-blooded aura that was unique to men could sometimes not only attract women, but also men. Tianjizi looked at Jiang Chen in surprise. He suddenly felt that he had underestimated this disciple of his. Moreover, Jiang Chen's words and the faint aura of a ruler had successfully affected Tianjizi. That's right, a man should live like this. He couldn't live in vain. Good disciple. Master didn't misjudge you. You're right, we need to be existences that instill fear in others, not others. Go boldly to the Nifa's abyss. I believe you'll become my pride. Tianjizi's attitude changed in an instant. He no longer objected to Jiang Chen. He even had some expectations for Jiang Chen. He looked forward to Jiang Chen creating a miracle and successfully walking out of the Nifa's abyss. How domineering would that be? Moreover, for some unknown reason, Tianjizi had an inexplicable confidence in Jiang Chen. It was as if even a dangerous place like the Nifa's abyss would not be able to stop Jiang Chen's footsteps. He felt that Jiang Chen would definitely be able to walk out of the Nifa's abyss. Disciple will certainly not disappoint master. Jiang Chen bowed at Tianji. Tianji was the first person that he was close to ever since he entered the immortal world. His relationship with Tianji was different from Ouyang He's. It was a responsibility that he had to take care of Ouyang He, whereas Tianji was his disciple. Kid, you deliberately delayed the 3 days. I guess you wanted master to impart the art of divination to you, right? Tianji said with a smile. Master's wisdom is truly unparalleled. You've guessed it correctly. Jiang Chen chuckled. The art of divination was too attractive to him. Since he was going to the Nepha's abyss soon, he had to make use of these 3 days to learn it. It would definitely be of great use to him in the Nepha's abyss. All right. When master was young, I accidentally obtained the great art of divination. Then I devoted my life to it. I never accepted a disciple because I couldn't find a genius who could inherit the great art of divination. The great art of divination is incomparably profound. It's incomparably difficult to cultivate it. I've only reached the first level of the great art of divination. To put it bluntly, I've only reached the entry level of the great art of divination. Tianji said. His expression instantly turned incomparably solemn when he mentioned the great art of divination. It was obvious that he was extremely respectful and fascinated by this supreme art. Chapter 1199. Great Divination Art. Jiang Chen's expression turned solemn. Whether a supreme art was powerful or not, one could tell a thing or two from its name. The fact that it dared to call it great divination art was enough to show how terrifying this secret art was. What shocked Jiang Chen even more was that Tianji was only at the entry level. Just at the entry level, he was already so powerful. If he cultivated this great divination art to the great completion level, what kind of performance would he have? Jiang Chen didn't dare to imagine. Disciple, I will now impart this great divination art to you. As for how far you can cultivate it, it will depend on your own luck. There is a very important condition to cultivate the great divination art, and that is a strong soul force. I have observed your performance in the iron dummy array before. I didn't expect you to be able to break the iron dummy array. Your soul force is far beyond ordinary people, and your perception is also incomparably amazing. This is the biggest advantage of cultivating the great divination art. Tianji said, not concealing his admiration for Jiang Chen. The great divination art is divided into 4 realms, namely the spiritual wisdom realm, heavenly rush realm, heavenly will realm, and heavenly mystery realm. The spiritual wisdom realm is just the entry level. Once you reach this realm, you can foresee good or bad fortune, and foresee danger. Once you reach the heavenly rush realm, you can use it in battle. I have just broken through to the heavenly rush realm, so I can rely on the foresight in battle to fight Yang Shu to a draw. This is the terror of the heavenly rush realm. Tianji said. The heavenly rush realm was a level higher than the spiritual wisdom realm, and it could already be used in battle. However, compared to the great divination art, the heavenly rush realm was just the entry level. The real terror was the heavenly will realm and heavenly mystery realm. Amazing! I wonder how terrifying the heavenly will realm and heavenly mystery realm will be. Jiang Chen's eyes lit up as he grew more and more interested in the great divination art. He had originally thought that the power of this secret art would be extremely terrifying if it could be used in battle. He didn't expect that Tianji's art could only be considered a beginner's level. You're right. The great divination art is an ancient secret art that I obtained by pure luck. The peak of this secret art is comparable to the heavens. Unfortunately, with my aptitude, I won't be able to comprehend it to that level in my entire life. I'm already extremely satisfied that I've reached the heaven vision realm. As for the divination realm after that, I've never had any extravagant hopes. As for the final divination realm, in the records of the great divination art, no one has ever successfully cultivated it apart from the supreme expert who created this secret art. The more he spoke, the more solemn his respect for the great divination art grew. The heaven insight and heavenly will realms are both used in battle. The heaven's mystery realm can predict the opponent's attack trajectory and methods. Once you reach the heavenly will realm, you won't just be able to predict these things. You can use the heaven's mystery to calculate the opponent's combat skills and perfectly execute them, catching the opponent off guard. Tianji said. Hearing that, Jiang Chen's eyes lit up again. He had previously relied on the dragon transformation skill and the great soul derivation technique to simulate his opponent's combat skills in battle. However, that kind of simulation was different from this kind of simulation. That kind of simulation was limited, and it wouldn't work if he encountered a combat skill that was too complicated. Moreover, the dragon transformation skill and the great soul derivation technique could only simulate the form and power of the combat skill. However, the great divination art could completely simulate the opponent's essence and completely obtain the opponent's combat skill. That was too terrifying. In other words, if one cultivated to this level, their enemy would basically have no secrets in front of them. Of course, this kind of simulation also had certain conditions. If the opponent's cultivation and strength were too much higher than his, then it wouldn't work at all. Under the complete suppression of strength, he wouldn't be able to simulate the opponent's combat skill before he could even simulate it. Master, what about the Heaven's Mystery Realm? Jiang Chen asked curiously. His eyes were filled with anticipation. The Heaven's Mystery Realm is the highest realm of the great divination art. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been named Heaven's Mystery. According to the records of the great divination art, once you reach this realm, you can control time, space, and the future. You can even manipulate the law of space and the law of time. You can transform into the Heaven's Mystery Realm and become one with the heavens. That realm is not something we can imagine. Although you're talented, it's basically impossible for you to reach the Heaven's Mystery Realm. It requires great luck and luck. I have high expectations of you. I'll be satisfied as long as you can reach the Heavenly Will Realm. Tianjizi smiled and patted Jiang Chen's shoulder. He was very satisfied with his disciple, but he didn't dare to hope that Jiang Chen could cultivate the great divination art to the highest realm. In history, no one had ever cultivated the great divination art to the Heaven's Mystery Realm. No matter how talented Jiang Chen was, it was basically impossible for him to reach this step. Heaven's Mystery Realm. Jiang Chen's eyes were filled with infatuation. He was almost obsessed with the great divination art. Manipulating time and space, controlling the past and the future. What kind of realm was that? It was unimaginable. It surpassed heaven's will and represented the heaven's mystery. No one dared to imagine what kind of realm it was, not even Jiang Chen. But it couldn't stop his fascination for this realm. Disciple, this is the cultivation method of the great divination art. Everything is introduced here. I'll hand it over to you now. I hope you won't disappoint me. Tianjizi flipped his palm and an ancient yellow paper appeared in front of Jiang Chen. Tianjizi's hand was trembling as he held the paper. It was as if this thin paper weighed thousands of kilograms. It was obvious how much importance Tianjizi placed on this paper. Jiang Chen also received the paper solemnly. When he held it in his hand, he suddenly had a different feeling. Although the paper was tattered, it exuded a strong ancient aura. It was densely packed with small characters. There was even a great map of the starry sky drawn at the top. It was filled with the charm of the great Tao and heaven's mystery. In just an instant, Jiang Chen was completely captivated. "Thank you, Master," Jiang Chen said very solemnly. Tianjizi was willing to give him such a precious secret art. Jiang Chen couldn't express his gratitude. The relationship between Tianjizi and Jiang Chen had become very real at this moment. True feelings were always good. True emotions could always tug at one's heartstrings. You don't have to be so courteous with me. You only have 3 days. After 3 days, you will enter the Nifa's abyss. You should seize the time to cultivate and see if you can comprehend a little bit of the great divination art. It will be very helpful when you enter a dangerous place like the Nifa's abyss. Tianjizi said. In his opinion, it was basically impossible for Jiang Chen to comprehend a little bit of the great divination art in 3 days. This secret art wasn't easy to cultivate. Chapter 1200. Jiang Chen saluted Tianjizi and chose to go into seclusion. He couldn't wait to learn the great divination art. Although the divination peak was simple and crude, the conditions were not bad. As a true disciple, Jiang Chen had his own cultivation place, a courtyard with incomparably beautiful scenery. After Jiang Chen entered the courtyard, De Huang Dog flew in as well. Tianjizi knew the relationship between Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog, so he didn't stop them. In Tianyun Pavilion, there were many disciples who liked to raise beasts, so it wasn't a rare thing. Tianjizi didn't disturb Jiang Chen. In his opinion, it would be extremely difficult for Jiang Chen to understand the contents of the great divination art, let alone step into the spiritual wisdom realm. He knew the importance of time to Jiang Chen, so he prepared to create the most peaceful conditions for Jiang Chen. "Kid, Did you really agree to go to the Nifa's abyss? Asked De Huang Dog as soon as he came in. Of course. Why? Do you know about the Nifa's abyss? Jiang Chen looked at De Huang Dog curiously. De Huang Dog seemed to have a certain understanding of the immortal world, far more than he had imagined. I don't know, but judging from the behavior of those old guys, the Nifa's abyss must be an extremely dangerous place. De Huang Dog shook his head. When have we ever been afraid of danger? We went to the devil world back then, but what happened in the end? The entire devil world is under our control. Jiang Chen shrugged, not caring about it. That's true. We have never been afraid. The more dangerous a place is, the more interesting it is. If Master Dog were to stay in Tianyun Pavilion forever, it would be really boring. But that Tian Muyun is really ruthless. He actually gave you such a heavy punishment as soon as you arrived. Could it be that he has already guessed that you are going to harm him? De Huang Dog said curiously. This was the first time Tian Muyun met Jiang Chen, but he had already developed such a strong hostility towards Jiang Chen. Logically speaking, it shouldn't have happened. As the sect master of Tianyun Pavilion, he should be happy that such a genius had appeared in the sect. It was even more impossible for Tian Muyun to discover Jiang Chen's purpose and his hostility towards him because Jiang Chen had never shown any hostility towards Tian Muyun. He had never mentioned the secret of Jiang Chen to anyone. No matter how smart Tian Muyun was, it was impossible for him to guess that there was a relationship between Jiang Chen and Ouyang He. He just wants to find a sense of superiority from me. This is the common trait of all geniuses. But I'm afraid that even he has already expected that I would agree to go to the Nifa's abyss. Jiang Chen smiled. As smart as he was, he knew exactly what Tian Muyun was thinking. Unfortunately, Tian Muyun was destined to be disappointed. It was impossible for him to find a sense of superiority from Jiang Chen. All right, I can see that you are very attached to the great divination art. Master Dog won't disturb you anymore. Give Master Dog a leaf of the regenerative lotus. Master Dog needs to go into seclusion to prepare for the trip to the Nifa's abyss. De Huang Dog raised his paw and placed it in front of Jiang Chen's face. Jiang Chen wasn't stingy at all. He immediately took out a leaf of the regenerative lotus. De Huang Dog had helped him restore the iron dummy array. This in itself was a reward for him. After receiving the leaf of the regenerative lotus, De Huang Dog found a random room and went into seclusion. This time, they were going to the Nifa's abyss, a place that was filled with evil and slaughter. It was an existence that would make people turn pale at the mention of its name. Therefore, even De Huang Dog didn't dare to be negligent. He wanted to improve his cultivation base as soon as possible. In this immortal world where dangers lurked everywhere, only a powerful cultivation base was the foundation of one's survival. If one wanted to survive, one must gradually become stronger. Everything else was just fleeting clouds. Since De Huang Dog had gone into seclusion, Jiang Chen naturally wouldn't be negligent. His room was very simple, but the items needed for cultivation were all necessary. A golden futon was placed in the middle of the room. The immortal qi in this room was much stronger than the outside world. At least, it was denser than the martial arts palace in the outer sect. Moreover, the futon had the effect of condensing immortal qi, making cultivation even easier. Jiang Chen sat cross-legged on the futon and quickly adjusted his state to the best. A pair of bright eyes fell on the great divination art in front of him. Blessed by heaven, operate the heaven secret. These words were written on the top of the ancient paper. They were full of charm. Below them were densely packed mnemonics. Each of the mnemonics was incomparably obscure and profound, making it hard for anyone to understand. Moreover, Jiang Chen discovered that there were mnemonics for the spiritual wisdom realm, heavenly momentum realm, and heavenly will realm on the paper. As for the heaven's secret realm, there wasn't even a single word of mnemonics. There was only a picture of a starry sky imprinted on it. Jiang Chen absolutely didn't dare to underestimate this starry sky picture. It contained a strong sense of heaven's secret, which made him truly feel that the great divination art was extraordinary. This is a heavenly secret map in itself. I want to see what powerful secrets this heavenly secret map has. Jiang Chen focused all his attention on the heavenly secret map. He circulated the great soul derivation technique, and his soul force surged towards the heavenly secret map like a tide. At the same time, Jiang Chen also circulated the dragon transformation art to assist him. All this while, Jiang Chen had been able to cultivate any battle skill or cultivation technique smoothly with the dragon transformation art and the great soul derivation technique working together. There had been no bottlenecks at all, and he hadn't encountered any setbacks in the process. Whoosh whoosh. Jiang Chen's soul power drifted for nearly 10 minutes. The heavenly secret map that was originally motionless suddenly started to move as if it was stimulated. Jiang Chen saw a large area of illusory storms, passing marks, and colorful light spots. They seemed real but not real, and also seemed fake but not real. There was no end to them, and they were everywhere. Jiang Chen's soul was like a floating leaf drifting in the vast ocean, constantly being overturned and torn apart. Barf! Jiang Chen's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't dare to delay any longer, and he quickly withdrew his soul force. What a profound concept. It's not something I can come into contact with. Jiang Chen was shocked. His face was pale, and his soul felt like it was about to shatter. In just an instant, Jiang Chen found that his clothes were drenched in sweat. Thinking of the danger just now, Jiang Chen couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. The heavenly secret map had turned into a vortex, and it had almost sucked his entire soul in. If it wasn't for Jiang Chen's quick reaction, his soul would have been devoured. After losing his soul, Jiang Chen would become an idiot, and the consequences would be unimaginable. I haven't even reached the spiritual wisdom realm in the great divination art, and I want to see the final heavenly secret map. I'm reaping what I sowed. Looks like I have to take it step by step, and I can't be greedy. Otherwise, if I go berserk, I'll only harm myself. Jiang Chen sighed. He was smart, and he immediately found the crux of his problem. Chapter 1201. According to the records of the great divination art, this supreme secret art had been passed down for countless years and had seen countless geniuses. However, none of them had been able to cultivate it to the great mastery realm. No one had even touched the final divination realm. Jiang Chen had reaped what he sowed by forcefully viewing the divination art when he hadn't even started. No matter how much of a genius he was, it was impossible for him to comprehend the profound meaning of the divination art in less than 10 minutes. Jiang Chen understood this very well. The situation just now was because the divination art was too attractive to him and he couldn't control himself. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Jiang Chen didn't know that he was the first person to make the divination art operate on its own. Tianjizi had been studying the great divination art all these years and had never once looked at the divination art. However, he couldn't see any changes at all. However, Jiang Chen was able to stimulate the divination art to operate. This was a miracle in itself. If Tianjizi knew about this, he would probably faint on the spot from the shock. Jiang Chen did something that he couldn't do in his entire life in less than 10 minutes. This kind of shock was a little too funny. Jiang Chen didn't dare to look at the divination art anymore. He used the wood spirit and the dragon transformation art to quickly recover from his injuries. This process took a full hour. It was obvious how serious the injuries he had suffered were. At the very least, it was more serious than the injuries he had suffered in battle. This was only because it was Jiang Chen. If it was someone else, it would be impossible to recover from such injuries without resting for a month. Jiang Chen could recover in an hour. This was really abnormal. After his body recovered, Jiang Chen took a deep breath and began to study the great divination art from the spiritual wisdom realm. He didn't have a big goal in 3 days. It was good enough to reach the spiritual wisdom realm. However, if Tianjizi knew what Jiang Chen's goal was, he would probably laugh at him immediately. Reaching the spirit wisdom realm in just 3 days was already a joke, wasn't it? Back then, Tianjizi had taken a year and a half to learn the great divination art, and that was because he had the potential to cultivate the great divination art. At the very least, he had a lot more potential than ordinary people. It was absolutely impossible to learn the great divination art in just 3 days. Spirit wisdom was the symbol of wisdom. A person's intelligence and spirituality would fuse together to form spirit wisdom. This was a prerequisite for cultivating the great divination art. The so-called beauty of heaven and earth contained destiny. Wisdom was the root of wisdom. Only people with great destiny and a root of wisdom could cultivate the great divination art. These two were indispensable and were the prerequisite for cultivating the great divination art. Therefore, not just anyone could cultivate the great divination art. If it was an ordinary person without an innate root of wisdom or a weak destiny, They would never be able to cultivate the great divination art even if they were given a lifetime. As for Jiang Chen, he was the symbol of destiny. This could be seen from his path. His talent and fortune undoubtedly gave him the prerequisite to cultivate the great divination art. To put it bluntly, the great divination art was tailor-made for Jiang Chen. It was only a matter of time before he surpassed Tianjizi, and it wouldn't take long. Jiang Chen soon fully immersed himself in the art. He was deeply attracted by the mnemonic chant and profound meaning, unable to extricate himself. While Jiang Chen was cultivating in seclusion, the interior of Tianyun Pavilion was in an uproar. There was no way to calm down. There were topics and discussions about Jiang Chen everywhere. After all, ever since Jiang Chen came to Tianyun Pavilion had never been peaceful. From the beginning he caused chaos in the outer sect, to the iron dummy array in the inner sect, to the life and death battle with Chu Yuan, and now he was going to the Nifa's abyss. Perhaps only Jiang Chen could do all these things in such a short period of time. In the history of Tianyun Pavilion, there had never been a person who could cause so much trouble. Tian Muyun was undoubtedly the most dazzling star in the history of Tianyun Pavilion, but after the arrival of Jiang Chen, he seemed to have overshadowed Tian Muyun's brilliance. It was a pity that Jiang Chen was going to the evil abyss. In the eyes of many, entering the evil abyss was basically no different from death. It was a death sentence. I really didn't expect Sect Master Tian to give Jiang Chen such a heavy punishment. It's a pity to lose such a powerful genius just to save Elder Yang Shu's face. What do you know? I heard that Sect Master only made a suggestion and Jiang Chen could reject it. I didn't expect Jiang Chen to agree to it directly. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. He even dared to take the initiative to go to a place like the Nifa's abyss. It seems like he doesn't know how terrifying the Nifa's abyss is. That's right. He would be an idiot if he agreed to it. The Nifa's abyss is a dangerous place that gathers evil and slaughter. Killing happens day and night. Dangers are everywhere. Putting aside the ancient demons and all kinds of ferocious demonic beasts, even the people there are vicious and evil. Jiang Chen really thinks too highly of himself, thinking that he is invincible after defeating Chu Yuan. He doesn't know that there are so many existences stronger than him in the Nifa's abyss. Even golden immortal experts wouldn't dare to go there recklessly. Only death awaits him if he enters the Nifa's abyss. Jiang Chen is definitely going to die. For Tianyun Pavilion, the loss of such a person will bring a lot of peace and tranquility, but it also means the loss of a powerful genius. What a pity. I really admire Jiang Chen's courage. Whether he can walk out of the Nifa's abyss or not, I still admire him. At least, ordinary people wouldn't dare to do such a thing. Let me ask you, which genius in Tianyun Pavilion would dare to go to the Nifa's abyss? If it was someone else, I'm afraid that they would rather suffer all kinds of punishments in the sect than go to a place like the Nifa's abyss. From the outer sect to the inner sect and even the core sect as well as the various elders' courtyards, everyone was talking about Jiang Chen. No one had thought that Jiang Chen would end up like this after going to the law enforcement hall. News of what happened in the law enforcement hall had already spread. Sect Master Tian Muyun had personally come forward to punish Jiang Chen by sending him to the Nifa's abyss, but the punishment was optional. What was unexpected was that Jiang Chen actually took the initiative to accept it. Chapter 1202. Jiang Chen couldn't hear the discussions happening outside, nor was he interested in them. All his interests were in the great divination art. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. Jiang Chen, who had been in seclusion for a whole day, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were incomparably bright, like the stars in the night sky. Their radiance couldn't be concealed. An illusory aura of divination overflowed from Jiang Chen's body. Under the reflection of this illusory aura, Jiang Chen looked extremely mystical. His black hair fluttered without any wind, his fingers trembled, and specks of light flickered on his fingertips. I've reached the spiritual wisdom realm. I should be considered to have grasped the basics. The great divination art is indeed incomparably profound. It took me a whole day to comprehend a trace of its essence and reach the spiritual wisdom realm. A smile appeared on Jiang Chen's face. The process of comprehension was extremely difficult. It had never been so difficult for him to cultivate any cultivation method or battle technique in the past. If Tianjizi was here, he would have fainted on the spot from the shock. What he had spent a year and a half to accomplish was accomplished by Jiang Chen in a single day. This was too much of a blow to him. Jiang Chen's words were even more infuriating. What did he mean by taking a day to grasp the basics? Damn it, he was going to anger me to death. Countless seniors who cultivated the great divination art would be angered to death. Those who were already dead would be angered to death again. Reaching the spiritual wisdom realm in a single day was a miracle. It was the greatest miracle in the history of the great divination art. Even the Almighty who created the great divination art couldn't imagine that someone from the younger generation would be able to grasp the basics in just a single day. Since the spiritual wisdom realm can divine fortune and misfortune, I might as well divine it for myself. Let's see if there will be any dangers in this trip to the Nifa's abyss. Jiang Chen thought. He immediately activated the great divination art. After a series of divination, he had the urge to cough up blood. It was just as Tianji had said. His fate had already surpassed the mysteries of heaven. Even he couldn't divine anything about himself. Damn it, my fate is so mysterious. It must be related to the dragonization art. What kind of close connection do I have with the primordial divine dragon? Jiang Chen began to feel curious about his identity, but whether it was the dragon transformation skill or the ancestral dragon pagoda, they had always been very mysterious. Even though he had been cultivating them for a long time, he still couldn't figure out the essence of the dragon transformation skill. Since he couldn't divine it, Jiang Chen decided to stop. He had only grasped the basics of the great divination art anyway. Jiang Chen didn't really care about fortune or misfortune. Even if he managed to divine something extremely dangerous, he would still do it. He was a person who wouldn't give up easily after making a decision. As for the secret of the dragon transformation skill, he would continue to explore it. No matter what his fate was, or whether it was beyond the heavenly fate, Jiang Chen was sure of one thing, and that was that cultivating the dragon transformation skill would definitely bring him benefits. It would definitely be beneficial to him. There are still 2 more days. I might be able to break through to the heavenly vision realm. If I can reach the threshold of the realm, I will be able to use the great divination art in battle like master. That's what I'm really looking forward to. Jiang Chen stopped divining, because it was meaningless to him now. He had to go to the evil abyss no matter what. The most important thing now was to break through to the heavenly vision realm. Once he advanced to the heavenly vision realm, it would be great. Jiang Chen's combat strength was already very strong. He could kill a half-step divine immortal expert in his dragon form. With the help of the great divination art, he might even be able to fight a true early divine immortal expert. This was a life-saving trump card. It would certainly come in handy in a place like the evil abyss. There was no doubt about it. As for the heavenly will realm and heavenly vision realm, Jiang Chen didn't think about it. He knew himself well. He already had some understanding of the great divination art after seeing the heavenly vision map. This kind of supreme secret art was too mysterious and difficult to cultivate. Given his talent and luck, he might be able to reach the heavenly vision realm very quickly. But the next 2 realms were just too difficult. The heavenly vision realm had already touched a trace of the heavenly vision. There was an acupoint between the eyebrows called the heavenly vision acupoint. In order to reach the heavenly vision realm, one would need to use the spiritual wisdom realm chi of heavenly vision to break through the heavenly vision acupoint. Only then would the acupoint be filled with heavenly vision chi. This realm wasn't easy, and the process of breaking through the heavenly vision acupoint was destined to be difficult as well. However, Jiang Chen wouldn't give up so easily. This was his style. Tianji had been paying attention to the situation inside the courtyard from outside, but he still couldn't see the real situation inside. If Tianji knew that Jiang Chen had entered the spiritual wisdom realm and was trying to break through the heavenly vision realm, it was unknown what kind of reaction he would have. For Jiang Chen, the heavenly vision acupoint was like a closed dead pool. It was surrounded by a solid barrier. It was really not easy to break through the barrier. What Jiang Chen needed to do now was to use the great soul derivation technique. He would use his powerful soul power and the spiritual wisdom realm chi of heavenly vision to attack the barrier of the heavenly vision acupoint. Once the barrier was broken, it would be considered a success. Tianji had cultivated for most of his life, but he had only reached this step recently. That was why he had the upper hand in the battle with Yang Shu. Whoosh! Around the heavenly vision acupoint, Jiang Chen's soul storm was everywhere. Wave after wave of attack, but unfortunately, the barrier of the heavenly vision acupoint was as solid as gold. No matter how the soul storm attacked, the heavenly vision acupoint remained motionless and showed no signs of breaking. Damn! This step is really difficult. Jiang Chen wiped his sweat and couldn't help cursing. This process was too difficult for him. But he didn't give up. He attacked the heavenly vision acupoint again and again. In the next 2 days, Jiang Chen kept breaking through the heavenly vision acupoint. In fact, to break through the heavenly vision acupoint and successfully enter the heavenly vision realm, the most basic condition was to use the powerful soul power and the spiritual wisdom realm qi to attack continuously until the heavenly vision acupoint was broken. However, ordinary people couldn't have such a powerful soul power. More importantly, they couldn't support the continuous attack of the soul power for a long time. Once they stopped in the middle, the barrier of the heavenly vision acupoint would automatically repair itself, causing the previous efforts to be in vain. This was also the reason why Tianjizi spent most of his life on this step. Chapter 1203. This was a huge advantage that anyone who cultivated the great divination art would yearn for, but not everyone could have it. Jiang Chen was a special case. As someone who had lived 2 lives, he had a huge advantage that surpassed ordinary people. Huff, huff. The heavenly penetrating acupoint was still being attacked. After 2 days of continuous effort, the barrier outside the heavenly penetrating acupoint had become extremely thin. Every soul attack would cause the barrier to tremble violently, as though it would shatter at any time. Outside the courtyard, Tianjizi glanced at the sky and pushed open the door of Jiang Chen's courtyard. It's been 3 days. I wonder how's that fella's cultivation going? Tianjizi had some expectations for Jiang Chen. He strode towards the door of Jiang Chen's seclusion room and pushed it open. At the instant when Tianjizi pushed open the door, Jiang Chen's heavenly penetrating acupoint was completely broken. Countless soul energy and heavenly fate qi surged into the heavenly penetrating acupoint like an ocean, causing the heavenly penetrating acupoint on Jiang Chen's forehead to light up. At the same time, the aura exuding from Jiang Chen's body grew denser. That was the intense heavenly fate qi. Although it was illusory, it could be felt. Tianjizi, who had just pushed open the door, saw this scene. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. His mouth was agape as he stared unblinkingly at the center of Jiang Chen's forehead. Then, his body trembled and he couldn't utter a single word. He was all too familiar with this scene because he had just experienced it not long ago. The heavenly penetrating acupoint lit up and the heavenly fate qi was dense. This was the sign of someone who had just broken through to the heavenly penetrating acupoint. Even if Tianjizi couldn't accept this reality, he had to admit that Jiang Chen had really done it. Or rather, it was like a dream to him. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. I must be dreaming. Tianjizi kept shaking his head as he murmured to himself. As a powerful golden immortal expert, he should have a strong heart and patience. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have too much of a reaction. But right now, Tianjizi couldn't help but feel excited. His interest could only be described as magnificent. Tianjizi couldn't believe that this was true. He had spent his entire life to reach this level, but Jiang Chen had only used 3 days. This wasn't a joke, right? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Tianjizi wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. No, even though he had seen it with his own eyes, Tianjizi was still unable to believe it. In fact, he could not even accept it. After successfully breaking through to the heavenly penetrating acupoint, Jiang Chen had already sensed Tianjizi's arrival. He took a deep breath and opened his eyes. This kind of extreme consumption of soul energy didn't make Jiang Chen feel tired at all. On the contrary, he was in high spirits. Standing up from the praying mat, he walked towards Tianjizi and bowed. Master! Jiang Chen called out, but Tianjizi didn't reply for a long time. Jiang Chen raised his head and saw that Tianjizi was already in a daze. It seemed like Tianjizi was still immersed in the scene just now. AI! Jiang Chen couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He could understand Tianjizi's current feelings. Initially, he wanted to hide his breakthrough to the heavenly penetrating acupoint from Tianjizi, saying that he had just entered the spirit wisdom realm. Otherwise, it would be too much of a blow to Tianjizi. But he didn't expect that Tianjizi would witness the scene of him breaking through to the heavenly penetrating acupoint. Master! Jiang Chen called out again. Only then did Tianjizi recover from the shock. He looked at Jiang Chen as if he was looking at a monster, and his voice began to tremble. You just broke through to the heavenly penetrating acupoint? Tianjizi's tone was still filled with disbelief. Yes, master. This disciple was lucky enough to break through to the heavenly penetrating acupoint. Master should be happy, Jiang Chen said with a smile. Happy. Tianji was naturally happy. He even had the urge to go crazy from happiness. Although Jiang Chen had dealt a fatal blow to him, from another perspective, his eyesight was indeed very good. He had accepted a monstrous disciple. Even the word monstrous wasn't enough to describe Jiang Chen's talent. 3 days. You only used 3 days to reach the level that I have spent half a lifetime to reach. What a monster. Fortunately, you are my disciple. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have gone crazy. Tianji was extremely excited. He could not help but feel excited. He saw hope in Jiang Chen. He even had a feeling that the great divination art had never reached the heavenly divination realm. But one day, Jiang Chen would be able to reach the heavenly divination realm. This was originally an unrealistic thought and fantasy, but Tianji felt that it was extremely possible. It's just luck. Although I have reached the heavenly penetrating acupoint, I have no clue about the heavenly will realm and heavenly divination realm. I'm afraid that it will take a long time and a certain amount of luck to reach the heavenly will realm. Jiang Chen said. What he said was true. He was already very satisfied with his current situation. As for the next 2 realms, they were something that could only be discovered by luck. Whether he could reach them or not would depend on his own luck. Kid, you are indeed a peerless genius that only appears once in 10,000 years. No wonder even the sect master is jealous of you. Now, even I am starting to get jealous. It seems that I have picked up a treasure. Since you have already cultivated the great divination art to the heavenly penetrating acupoint realm, you can fully utilize the secret art in battle. It will definitely play a key role when you reach the evil abyss. Tianji was full of admiration for Jiang Chen. To him, this time, he had really picked up a treasure. Jiang Chen was an unpolished jade. A real treasure. In the future, Jiang Chen's achievements would surely surpass Tian Muyun's. Tianji believed that a person like Jiang Chen was destined to have extraordinary achievements in the future. Although Tian Muyun was a legendary figure in One Line Sky, the difference in talent between him and Jiang Chen was like the difference between heaven and earth. A person like Jiang Chen was a true son of heaven, a figure that would soar through the 9 heavens. A small opponent like One Line Sky wouldn't be able to trap him. Master, 3 days have passed. I'm ready to go to the evil abyss. Jiang Chen said. Now that he had cultivated the great divination art, he no longer had any nostalgia for Tianyun Pavilion. Instead, he was very interested in the evil abyss. It would be beneficial to his growth if he could gain experience there. That's right. I will bring you to the sect master now. The sect master will help you open the passage to the evil abyss. When you arrive there, you must be careful. Although you have extraordinary talent, your cultivation is still weak. A place like the evil abyss is the hardest to survive. A little carelessness and your life will be in danger. Tianji instructed. He was very concerned about Jiang Chen. Disciple understands. Jiang Chen nodded, then summoned a Huang dog and prepared to set off for the evil abyss. Chapter 1204. The Huang dog walked out while shaking his head. In just 3 days' time, his cultivation base had advanced to the late heaven immortal realm. Although he had just reached the late heaven immortal realm, such speed of advancement was already very terrifying. Naturally, the effect of the regenerative lotus was good, but in essence, the Huang dog's bloodline was too powerful. If he was replaced by an ordinary person, no matter how many lotus leaves he had, he wouldn't be able to advance at such a fast speed. The late heaven immortal De Huang dog's combat strength was even more powerful. Ordinary half-step divine immortal experts were no match for him. Even if he encountered an early divine immortal expert, he would still be able to deal with them. Naturally, the stronger they were, the better it would be for them to go to the evil abyss this time. With the help of the great divination art, Jiang Chen's current combat strength was already equivalent to an expert who had just stepped into the divine immortal realm. With the addition of De Huang dog and Ada and Air who were hiding in the Zulong Tower, they would have the combat strength of 4 divine immortal experts. With such strength, they would be able to deal with 1 or 2 experts in the evil abyss. Are we setting off now? De Huang dog's face was filled with excitement. As a dog that craved for the world to be in chaos, he was very interested in a place like the evil abyss. This dog is very unusual. Tianji looked at De Huang dog and couldn't help but praise. He had already noticed that this dog was unusual. He knew that from the fact that De Huang Dog could repair the iron dummy array. What surprised him more was the speed of De Huang Dog's advancement. He clearly remembered that De Huang Dog was merely a mid-heaven immortal expert 3 days ago. But now, he had already advanced to the late heaven immortal realm. Such a terrifying advancement was extremely rare. Tianji couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The man and the dog in front of him were 2 freaks. Birds of a feather flocked together. Jiang Chen was a freak. Even a dog beside him was a freak among freaks. "Let's go and find Sect Master," said Tianji. As soon as his voice faded, a silhouette suddenly appeared on Tianji Peak. The newcomer had an extraordinary bearing. It was none other than Tian Muyun, Sect Master. Upon seeing Tian Muyun, Tianji and Jiang Chen saluted at the same time. No matter how much Jiang Chen hated Tian Muyun, he had no choice but to behave meekly. After all, there was still a huge gap between his strength and Tian Muyun's. He had to conceal himself well so that Tian Muyun wouldn't notice him. "Jiang Chen, are you sure that you want to go to the evil abyss? It's not too late for you to regret now. I won. Tian and Tian will. Tian Muyun Tian Immortal Sect. Disciple has already made up his mind. I don't want to put Sect Master in a difficult position. I'm afraid that the entire Skycloud Pavilion already knows that I'm going to Nifa's Abyss. If I go back on my words now, wouldn't it tarnish Sect Master's reputation? My life is nothing compared to Sect Master's reputation. Besides, Disciple also wants to go to Nifa's Abyss to train." Jiang Chen said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, placing Tian Muyun's position high and mighty. Tian Muyun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. For some reason, he felt a sense of defeat from Jiang Chen. He admired Jiang Chen, but he didn't like Jiang Chen. "All right, since you've made up your mind, I'll open the spatial passage to the Nifa's Abyss for you now." As Tian Muyun spoke, a golden talisman appeared in his hand. The talisman flickered with light, filled with the aura of space. A half-step immortal king expert had only just comprehended the spatial force, and had only taken half a step into it. He was still far from being able to open up a spatial passageway. The talisman in Tian Muyun's hand was a spatial talisman. It was a talisman that could lead one to the Nifa's Abyss. Tian Muyun was now the sect master of Tianyun Pavilion, so this talisman was naturally in his hands. Huff huff. A chilly wind whistled. The talisman quickly turned into a spatial door. The door wasn't very tall, but one could feel the chilling qi coming out from it. One could even feel the gloomy qi of the Nifa's Abyss, which made one shudder. Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog's eyes fell upon the door at the same time. Both of their eyes shone with a strange light. "Jiang Chen, hurry up and go in. Given my cultivation base, I can't maintain this spatial passage for a long time." Tian Muyun said. "Yes, Sect Master." Jiang Chen cupped his fists, then turned into a ray of light and rushed into the spatial door. De Huang Dog followed closely behind. The man and dog disappeared in an instant. Not long after Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog disappeared, Tian Muyun also kept the talisman and turned to leave. Tian Jizi stared at the place where Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog disappeared in a daze. "Kid, I hope you won't let me down." Tian Jizi hoped that Jiang Chen could walk out of the Nifa's Abyss successfully. In that case, Jiang Chen would be able to create another miracle. Inside the black spatial passage, one could constantly feel the variegated spatial airflow in the surroundings. Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog could feel that this spatial passage was slanted downwards. In other words, the Nifa's Abyss was located at the bottom of the one-line sky. Moreover, the deeper they went, the more intense the gloomy and cold aura became. Under the influence of such an aura, it was easy for people to feel unhappy and irritated. However, as people who had wandered around the Devil Realm, these auras were nothing to them. The Nifa's Abyss was naturally incomparably dangerous, but compared to the Devil Realm, it was probably still inferior. Jiang Chen wasn't afraid of the Nifa's Abyss because he had a powerful trump card. The Zulong Tower was his greatest trump card. The 14-story Zulong Tower had been fully restored after a period of rest and reorganization. Although the Zulong Tower couldn't be used in battle, it could be used to protect one's life and conceal oneself. At that time, not only would Tian Muyun not let him off, there would also be no place for him in the entire one-line sky. Moreover, after arriving at the Nifa's Abyss, Jiang Chen was like a dragon swimming in the sea. He was no longer restricted by the Tianyun Pavilion. He could also use the Heavenly Dragon Combat Halberd in his hand. Together with the Heavenly Dragon Combat Halberd, he also had another powerful combat skill, the 9 Heavenly Dragon Strikes. Given Jiang Chen's current strength, he could already try to cultivate the first part of the 9 Heavenly Dragon Strikes. It would be a pity if he didn't use such a powerful trump card. However, in the Tianyun Pavilion, he couldn't use either the Heavenly Dragon Combat Halberd or the 9 Heavenly Dragon Strikes. Once they were used, his identity would be completely exposed. The secret of the regenerative lotus would also be exposed. At that time, not only would Tian Muyun not let him off, there would also be no place for him in the entire one-line sky. In any case, he had already achieved his first goal of coming to the one-line sky. He had successfully entered the Tianyun Pavilion. The next thing he had to do was to seize the opportunity to improve his cultivation and strength. The Nifa's Abyss was the best place for him to do so. Chapter 1205. The spatial passageway leading to the Nifa's Abyss wasn't too long. Although the Nifa's Abyss could be considered an alternate dimension, it didn't exist independently from the immortal world. However, the closer they got to the Nifa's Abyss, the denser the evil and gloomy aura it emitted became, causing people to feel very uncomfortable. The evil aura in front of them grew denser. Moreover, specks of light began to appear in the dark passageway. Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog were no strangers to the situation because they had experienced it more than once. They were about to reach the end of the passageway. "We're almost there." De Huang Dog's face was filled with excitement. The two of them hastily controlled their bodies. They had experienced the impact of the spatial energy at the end of the passageway many times. If they were careless and were forcefully thrown out by the powerful spatial storm, they would certainly end up in an extremely miserable state. Bang! At the end of the passageway, a powerful force acted on Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog, throwing them out like cannonballs. Fortunately, they were already prepared for it. They forcefully controlled their bodies in mid-air and landed steadily. After landing, the two of them immediately observed their surroundings. What they saw shocked them. The scene in the Nifa's Abyss was completely different from what they had imagined. The difference was just too big. In Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog's imagination, a place like the Nifa's Abyss must have an extremely harsh environment filled with gloomy and cold aura. They could sense it a little from the spatial passageway. They thought that the situation in the Nifa's Abyss would at least be similar to the Devil World. However, the scene in front of them was completely different. They had landed in a wilderness. It wasn't that the wilderness was barren. Instead, it was filled with weeds and withered vines. There were also ancient trees that towered into the clouds. Since there were plants growing here, it meant that this place was full of vitality. It should be late at night, but there were actually stars twinkling in the sky. Why does the Nifa's Abyss look no different from the outside world? It even has a sun, moon, and stars. Apart from the strong evil and slaughter aura drifting in the air, it doesn't look like hell at all. De Huang Dog was surprised. It seems like we have some misunderstandings about the Nifa's Abyss. The starry sky here should be connected to the outside world, so the environment here should be similar to the outside world. It's just that it's an independent space. But the more it's like this, the more dangerous and terrifying this place is. Since the Nifa's Abyss doesn't represent the environment, it represents the atmosphere here. Jiang Chen's eyes lit up. He could tell that although the Nifa's Abyss looked no different from the outside world, the real danger lay in the people and other living beings living here. It was a true land of slaughter, full of sin and evil. This made Jiang Chen think highly of the Nifa's Abyss. While his heart was filled with anticipation, he didn't dare to be careless. This should be the border of Nifa's Abyss. De Huang Dog looked around and said, "Who cares about the border? Since we're already here, let's make the best out of it. Come, let's go inside and have a look." After saying that, Jiang Chen soared into the sky and flew towards the depths of the wilderness. Although it was late at night, for experts like Jiang Chen and De Huang Dog, there was no difference between day and night. This Nifa's Abyss is really not small. It's at least millions of miles wide. It's really vast and boundless. Ordinary alternate dimensions aren't this big. It seems like there are many evil forces in Nifa's Abyss. De Huang Dog sighed. Even Jiang Chen didn't think of this before. They originally thought that Nifa's Abyss was just an ordinary alternate dimension that had a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. But now, it seemed like this wasn't the case at all. An alternate dimension with a radius of millions of miles was almost comparable to a large domain in the outside world. Suddenly, Jiang Chen's eyes moved and looked at a place in the wilderness below. There were a few auras coming from that place. They were the auras of humans. There are people moving down there. Let's go and take a look. After saying that, Jiang Chen concealed his aura and flew in that direction. De Huang Dog followed closely behind him. They had just arrived at Nifa's abyss and didn't know anything about the situation here. It would naturally be good if they could find someone to ask about it. In the wilderness, two extremely miserable figures were running at high speed. They were two women. Their clothes were tattered and their faces were pale. It was obvious that they had suffered serious injuries. The two of them ran at high speed, one in front and the other behind. Their eyes were filled with despair when they felt the auras getting closer and closer. But they didn't have a choice. They had to run even if they had to die, because if the people behind them didn't catch up to them and capture them, what awaited them would be a fate worse than death. The two women had one thing in common. They were both beautiful. One of them was dressed in blue. She was even more beautiful than the other. Both of them were at the early heaven immortal realm. With such a cultivation base they could fly in the sky, but they could only run on the ground instead of flying because they knew their injuries very well. They could still survive by relying on the lush trees and withered vines below. If they flew into the sky, they would be caught by the pursuers in an instant. Jie, you two little girls, you won't be able to escape. It's better for you to surrender obediently. A sinister laughter came from behind. The pursuers were getting closer and closer to them. Barf! The woman in black coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her injuries were too serious to support her to continue running. She could only walk with the help of the woman in blue. Sister Ing, how are you? The woman in blue's face was filled with worry. Sister Qingqing, you should leave by yourself. I can't take it anymore. You will only be a burden to yourself if you bring me along. Hurry up and leave. I will block those beasts and buy you some time. The woman in black flung the arm of the woman in blue and was prepared to fight to the death with the pursuers. No. If you are captured by them, you will suffer a fate worse than death. I can't watch you die for me. The woman in blue shook her head. She was very loyal. Go. The woman who was addressed as Sister Ing screamed. Haha, very loyal ha. Unfortunately, none of you will be able to leave. The voice got closer and closer. Suddenly, 4 experts flew over. The 4 men in black were all Heaven Immortal experts. 2 of them were at the intermediate Heaven Immortal realm while the other 2 were at the early Heaven Immortal realm. Even if the 2 women weren't injured, they wouldn't be able to deal with such a group. Moreover, they were heavily injured. Chapter 1206. Despair, deep despair. After despair came the thought of death. That's right, the 2 girls had already thought of death because they knew too well the consequences of being captured. To any woman, that place was a nightmare that they would never wake up from. It was a life worse than death. Therefore, if they really couldn't escape, they would rather die than go to that place. Sister Qingqing, it seems like both of us are going to die in this wilderness today. The girl in black smiled bitterly while looking at the girl in blue. Even if we die, we can still be brought to that place. The lady in blue gritted her teeth and a ruthless look appeared in her eyes. She absolutely could not go to that place. Once she went there, it would be difficult to die even if she wanted to. Death would be a luxury. The girl in blue raised her head and looked at the starry sky. She discovered that the stars were very dim today. Brother Jiang, it seems like Qingqing won't have the chance to see you again. The blue-clothed lady murmured. Her heart couldn't help but feel warm at the mention of Big Brother Jiang. The corner of her mouth revealed a trace of a smile. This blue-clothed lady wasn't anyone else. She was Yan Qingqing. After Jiang Chen left Yan City, she couldn't forget Jiang Chen. She was prepared to go to One Line Sky to find Jiang Chen and do something that she wouldn't regret in her life. However, she had never thought that her fate would become like this. Today, she was going to the Yellow Spring. Her biggest wish was to see Jiang Chen, but she also knew that it was just an extravagant wish. Brother, these 2 guys want to commit suicide. One of the men in black said in a mocking tone. It's impossible for them to commit suicide in front of us. They don't even have the ability to do so now. These 2 beauties are of the highest quality. Especially this one, she's even rarer. Our young master will definitely like her. More importantly, These two are virgins. Such high-quality beauties are too rare. If our young master plucks them, his strength will definitely increase greatly. Cut the crap. Take them away. The four black-clothed men had decided the fate of the two girls with just a few words. In fact, it was indeed so. With Yan Qingcheng's current strength, they might not even have the chance to commit suicide in front of these black-clothed men. When a person's right to die was taken away, that was the true despair. Big brother Jiang, even if Qingqing dies, she has to protect herself. Let's meet again in our next life. Yan Qingqing was a woman with a fiery temperament. She quickly took out a sharp dagger and stabbed it towards her neck at lightning speed. The four black-clothed men were startled. They didn't expect that the other party would actually commit suicide. Moreover, the speed was so fast that it was already too late for them to stop her. One had to know that it took a lot of courage for a person to commit suicide. This kind of courage wasn't something that everyone had. Pah! The four black-clothed men didn't want Yan Qingqing to die, but there was someone who didn't want Yan Qingqing to die even more. Just when Yan Qingqing's dagger was about to pierce her neck, a big hand suddenly stretched out from the side and firmly grabbed Yan Qingqing's arm, stopping the dagger from moving forward. Feeling that her suicide attempt was blocked, Yan Qingqing instantly fell into despair. Could it be that she really couldn't even die? Little sister Qingqing, even if you wish to die, you should at least ask for my permission first, right? A slightly playful voice sounded. Hearing this familiar voice, Yan Qingqing's delicate body suddenly trembled as if she was struck by lightning. This voice was too familiar, because it was the voice that she wanted to hear even in her dreams. Yan Qingqing, who had already closed her eyes in despair, slowly opened them. Then, she turned her head mechanically and happened to see a bright smiling face looking at her with great interest. That familiar face, that bright smile that she would never forget even in her dreams, made Yan Qingqing feel as if she was dreaming. Big brother Jiang. Yan Qingqing's voice was slightly trembling. She didn't dare to believe that this was real. Big brother Jiang, is it really you? Qingqing, are you dreaming? Yan Qingqing felt that she could no longer control her emotions. It was easy to imagine what she was feeling right now. She left Yen City for the sake of Jiang Chen. Then, she accidentally entered the Nifa's abyss and endured the final despair. At the last moment, she didn't expect the person she loved to save her. All she wanted was to see him again. Just when she thought that everything was just an extravagant hope and that she could only meet him again in her next life, that person just happened to appear. That kind of surprise and happiness was indescribable. Of course it's me. I'm here. Don't even think about dying. Jiang Chen teased. He didn't know why Yan Qingqing would appear in the Nifa's abyss, but there must be a reason. Moreover, all of this wasn't important anymore. What was important was that he appeared in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Big brother Jiang. Yan Qingqing could no longer control her emotions. She immediately threw herself into Jiang Chen's arms with tears streaming down her cheeks. The despair and suppressed emotions that she had been feeling for a long time were finally released at this moment. At this moment, Yan Qingqing was no longer that domineering missy. She completely revealed her feminine side. No matter how strong a woman was, she would still have a fragile side, and this fragile side would only be shown to certain people. Sigh. Jiang Chen couldn't help but sigh. All along, he had treated Yan Qingqing as a passerby in his life. He had never had any improper thoughts about her. Even now, he already had Yan Chenyu and Wu Ningzhu. He really didn't want to provoke a third girl. That's right. He clearly saw Yan Qingqing's expression before she died. This woman could be said to be deeply in love with him. This was something that even a person with a heart of stone could feel. Putting aside their feelings, it was impossible for him to watch Yan Qingqing die here based on his relationship with her. Since they met in the Nifa's abyss, Jiang Chen had the responsibility to protect her. The black-robed woman who was already in despair was incomparably shocked when she saw Jiang Chen suddenly appear. Yan Qingqing's current performance made her even more astonished. She knew that Yan Qingqing was looking for her beloved in one-line sky and was inadvertently teleported to the Nifa's abyss. Now it seemed that this handsome white-robed youth was the one Yan Qingqing was looking for. Kid, who are you? Let go of that woman at once, then kneel down and accept your death. One of the black-robed men said coldly to Jiang Chen. This guy had appeared out of nowhere and actually ignored their existence. Since this man had appeared, there was only one ending for him: death. This was the Nifa's abyss. There was no need for a reason to kill here. Jiang Chen raised his head. His cold gaze was enough to destroy a person's soul. He looked at the 4 black-robed men and asked indifferently, "Her injuries were caused by you, right?" You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.